Okay. It's 15 seconds till I'm gonna roost.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm on your Facebook page right now. Yeah.
Is it? It's got a live there, right?
I don't see live yet. Share now. There we go. I see you.
All right. Welcome, guys, to the Digital Creators Podcast. I'm here with Daniel Yap. So in this podcast, we're on a journey to discover the very core of creativity. I'm your host, Harry, and we have Daniel Yap as our guest, who's a multi-award-winning hairstylist who's been in the industry over 20 years. Daniel is known for his hair shows, being a creative hairdressing educator, and his unique styling method, which combines coloring, laying of colors and textures. And in this episode, we're going to talk about Daniel's story, his journey to where he is today, the craft of hairstyling, his inspirations, and so much more. So, welcome, Daniel.
All right. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, let's take us back to maybe when you grew up. Were you a creative child? Obviously, you grew up in Malaysia.
Yep.
So were you a creative child,
Wow.
and were you getting into hairstyling at that time, or like what were you into at that time?
My journey is actually very unique, I'll say. Let me see. Should we start all the way back before I came to Australia? Before I came to Australia, like my family were originally from Malaysia, from Kuala Lumpur, and then I actually grew up in a very busy city. So when I first came to Perth, I actually find that it was a bit of a country town to me. It was quite a bit of a shock because coming from Australia, which is a really Southeast Asian kind of country, and then we had a very romantic perspective of what Australia or Western country would be, right? So, and then like I said, I grew up in a really busy city. I think the population back then was something like 35 million, and the size of Malaysia is tiny. So it's always very busy, very packed. And when we first came to Australia, I think it was like 97, 98. Very, very early on, the first time when I came, I realized like it was so different. It was so much more quieter. I was really taken back for quite a bit. And it was a little bit tricky to get used to because, like I said, I had such a romantic idea of what a westernized country would be. And then, of course, growing up watching movies in like America and like the English movies, and you just think like, oh, there's this different perspective of what it would be like. So when I came to Australia, I was a bit taken back because people were just really, really laid back. Yeah. Just so chilled out. Because growing up in Malaysia, whenever my parents would take me out, we would, really dress up. We would make sure that we have the right shoes on. We would dress well, and then we'll go out. And when it came to Perth, when we would go out for dinner, people were just like, oh, just wear a t-shirt and shorts, and little things like that. We were very less formal. Yeah. So I have a very unique upbringing as well because. Coming from Malaysia, everything is just culturally, it was a shock to me. A lot of people would go to Asia and have like a oh, this is a cultural shock for me, because I'm going to Southeast Asia, and I had the exact same feeling when I came to Australia. So this was quite a cultural shock for me because I felt, if you guys didn't realize, like for me, it felt like I was in a time warp when I was sent back, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. That's how it felt for me. And then for a lot of people, when they go to Asia, they're like, oh, this is like culture shock. I think it's just so different. Yeah, because Australian culture is very, very laid back, as you were saying. And even from going to, Southeast Asia or Japan or South Korea, everyone's very well presented.
there's kind of a hustle and bustle. Like I was just in
Absolutely.
Hong Kong, so busy there. Everybody's like hustling from dawn
Absolutely.
to dusk. Like
So our focus on image and how we present ourselves, it's actually completely different. In Australia, don't get me wrong, you guys do pay attention to your image as well, but it's a very different perspective. So when I came here, it was like I was taken back a little bit, and then it took me a long time to sort of understand Australian culture. Because if you haven't traveled enough, right, you start to realize, you only understand your own culture. You don't understand what other people's culture is. So that's why I always tell a lot of people, like, it's really important to travel, to not just understand what your own culture is to understand what other people's culture is. So the first time I had a cultural shock was coming to Australia, because it's like, oh, why is it like this? So I understand when people say, like, coming from Australia, they go to like Bali. They go to Bali, oh my God, this is such a cultural shock. Well, for them, they have the same perspective as well. So that's kind of how I felt when I first came here.
And when did you arrive in Australia?
Like I said, I think it was like the first time I think I came to Australia, I was really young. I was probably 12, but I went to Melbourne and I lived with my uncle for a while. That was really amazing. And again, a culture shock as well. But when my family moved here, I think the late 90s when we came here. And then that was massive for my family because mom and dad pretty much sold everything they had. They wanted to start fresh here in Australia. So we got rid of everything. And then, me, my brother, my mom and dad, we just came here. And then we started from scratch again.
And were you doing hairstyling at that time?
Oh, yes, I did. So I did a little bit of hairdressing. I went and did a bit of courses when I was in Malaysia. It's something very similar to like an apprenticeship. So it's like an apprenticeship in Malaysia. So it was really tough, really, really tough compared to what I think hairdressing here in Australia is. Because back when I was in Malaysia, to be a hairdresser, right? You spend basically the first year of your apprenticeship sweeping floors. And then you spend time basically just maintaining the salon. You don't even start touching hair first in your first year or even your second year. You basically have to prove yourself worthy. But I start to understand it now after being in the industry for like 24 years now, that my ex-bosses was teaching me how to maintain a salon, how to understand the runnings of a salon. And it's so simple as like just learning how to sweep the floors. Because if you don't know how to make sure everything's clean or hygienic or knowing where everything belongs to where it needs to be, you can't even you can't even do a haircut properly if you don't understand how to maintain everything else properly. So it's like running a restaurant. If you don't know how to wait on customers, how can you actually run a kitchen? So you have to understand every perspective of how to run a business.
Okay, and what was your journey to actually becoming a hairstylist? Because you're a creative person. Were you doing other creative activities as a child?
When I was very young, I used to work in like restaurants. For a very long time before I became a hairdresser, I thought I would actually become a chef. So when I was young, I spent a lot of time in my friend's dad's restaurant because he owns a restaurant. And when you're a kid, you're just running around, just doing kid stuff. You're just being naughty, right? And then my friend's dad was just like, yo, come here, help me clean some dishes, help me clear the table, help me do this and that, And in exchange, he would give us, a few dollars here and there. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I get to make money and help. I just need to clean up a table. I just need to bring dishes to a table. This piece of cake, I think I was 12 then. And then ever since then, I started to help out a little bit more. I started to spend a bit more time in the kitchen. You start, peeling carrots. You start, cleaning potatoes. And then next minute, you start to just get a bit more tasks. And I start to realize that I'm really good with my hands. I can do stuff. And then I think how I started getting into hairdressing, this is going to sound really funny. One of the reasons I was 16 then, and one of the reasons why I thought it would be cool to become a hairdresser is because I thought it would be a good way to meet girls.
Okay.
Honestly, if being all honest here, when you're 16, that's all you actually think about. So like, oh, how do I meet like girls? It's like, be a hairdresser. Because in my head, I'm thinking like girls would always want to go get the hair done in the salon, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously that's where they're all going to be.
Yeah.
Great, let's start there. So, but I
Whereas
didn't.
when you're a chef, you're kind of in the back.
Yeah, in the
You're
back,
not
you're
gonna-
still thinking
you're not
like,
gonna meet
dude,
anybody.
that's like you're getting nothing, man. You're getting nothing there. So I thought like, okay, this is a pretty good start. And then after spending a bit of time in the salon, I realized this is an amazing industry. There's a lot of things about hairdressing that people don't realize. I understand that requires a level of discipline, true discipline, to become a good hairdresser. It requires a lot of time to hone your craft. You know, you have to understand how chemicals work, because at the end of the day, we're talking about peroxide here. You know, if you don't know the chemistry side of things, it's really, really dangerous as well. You have to understand how to sculpt hair, because you know when it comes to doing bridal hair and all that, you have to know how to sculpt shapes. You're not gonna know how to color. You're gonna know how to cut. My God, hairdressing is so in depth.
Yeah.
So and then realize I love this. I love this.
It's just reminds me of an interesting comparison, because I had a fashion designer on last night. His name's Mark McGuy, and he was talking about how he sees fashion design as engineering rather than something else. And it's almost like you're seeing hairstyling, not just a styling, but some sort of like chemistry, like you're using chemicals and sculpting. It's like, it's not just styling, like so much more comes into it.
Oh, so much more, so much more. I quickly understood that being a hairdresser, you're practically a craftsman, because everything that we do is handmade, if you really think about it. So I realized that this is what I love. And then the more I understood it, the more I practice what I do, the more I refine my skills, I realized that there's so much more of hairdressing that I can actually do. So after I left Malaysia, I've already sort of done hairdressing for a few years then. And after I came here, I realized like, oh, I actually have to start all over again. Because when I was in Malaysia, all we actually do is, I was spending time cleaning floors and, you know, chatting girls up. But I still understood how to wash hair, but I didn't have a strong enough foundation onto becoming a good hairdresser. So I realized when I came to Australia, I have to focus on becoming a good hairdresser. So back at the time, because I was still considered as a international student.
Yeah.
So for me to become a hairdresser, I have to go do a course. So to do a course in Australia as an international student, it is really expensive. Yeah. It's really expensive. I think for 2.5 years, I had to go to Melbourne, study hairdressing, to do a 2.5-year course at this is early 2000 we're talking about, right? Or 99, 2000. It was about $30,000 for my course to do hairdressing. It is so much money. It is so much money. And then, so I realized like, okay, I have to commit to what I do. If this is really what I want to do for my career, I have to commit to it.
First of all, can you go over the difference between, say, a regular hairdresser, like I go in and I get my hair cut, and then a hairstylist? And did you start out being like a hairdresser, just doing cuts before sort of styling?
Okay,
back
so
in when you first started?
Okay, so people get a bit confused between like what a barber is, a hairstylist, a hairdresser. Technically, we're all the same. We're all the same, because when you say hairstyling, we're just sort of like creating shapes, like styling with a comb, or just curling it, or just creating a design, right? Hairdressing is more a complete finishing of we're able to cut hair, we're able to barber, we're able to style, we're able to color it, we're complete. So every time when someone asks me like, oh, are you a hairstylist? I was like, I'm actually more of a hairdresser, because the way I'm trained, I can actually do barbering, I can cut hair, I can do bobs, I can do upstyling, and I can do coloring. These days, there are stylists, there are, what do you call them? They call them cutters, like cutters are stylists, or they call them like colorists, and then there's barbers. I feel it gets a little bit diluted with this generation, because a lot of hairdressers are becoming to the point where, oh, I'm too afraid of doing that, so maybe I'll just become a colorist. Yeah. Oh, I can't do haircuts, So I'll just do color, or I don't want to do women. I'm just going to be a barber.
Okay, so it's almost like I think even from a photography perspective, people are nervous to call themselves a photographer, because when you call yourself a photographer, it means like a lot of like professionalism comes with it, or so I guess it's kind of a level, like a certain level that you have to reach, or
I guess so, but I think as a hairdresser, if you call yourself a hairdresser, you have to be complete.
Yeah.
You have to know everything.
Okay.
I think for me, I felt it was important for me to know everything.
Okay.
Because my goal, I knew very, very early on, my goal wasn't just to become a hairdresser. I wanted to become an educator.
Yeah.
I wanted to teach. I wanted to share. And that's a whole long story to why I want to do that as well.
It's another thing that I definitely want to get into, but yeah, so, okay, yeah, that gives me an idea of sort of hairstyling. And then when you were in Malaysia, did you already do a course there, or?
I did a course, and I also worked at a salon at the same time. So I'm sort of paying my way to learn, which is like 1 or 2 days a week. And then the rest of the 5 days a week, I work 7 days. I'm full busy 7 days when I'm there. And the rest of the 5 days, I actually work in a salon.
Okay. And then why did you feel it was necessary to do a course in Australia?
Because to be a hairdresser at the time, right, in Australia, you have to be certified.
Okay.
So I can't get a job as a qualified hairdresser unless I'm certified in Australia. Okay. And because in Australia, certification is it's really good, because if you're certified in Australia, that means you can practice this craft, hairdressing, anywhere in the world.
Oh, okay. So it's like a legitimate
certification. Yes.
You have to get. Okay.
Even though in Australia, really now, like you don't need to walk around with certificates saying that I'm a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have that anymore. It used to be so regulated in a way that I love it. I love that the fact that it's regulated.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's hard to become a hairdresser. I love the fact that, to become a hairdresser, you've got to jump through all these different hoops to make sure that you do things the right way. These days, to be honest, you don't even need to really go to TAFE to become a hairdresser. You can just learn it off YouTube and come to salon and go like, yeah, I know how to do hair. It's a bit sad like that.
But
yeah,
I guess if you're taking it seriously and maybe you run like a professional hair salon, you're not going to really hire someone unless they have that certification, right?
For me, yes, absolutely. So we're a little bit strict here. I want to know that they are properly educated and they're properly trained, and then I need to know that they're proper qualified hairdressers before they actually come work for us. It's important for me because we hold a certain level of quality of work that I expect from my hairdressers. Okay.
And talking about that cultural shift, because I actually talk about that a lot on this podcast in terms of like fashion, design, like presentation. And you were saying like you get that in Asia, that kind of it's kind of important to look good, dress well for like business or whatever. But here it's more
laid back.
Laid back.
It's more laid back. Yeah.
Has that sort of shifted since you started doing hairdressing?
Oh, massively, massively. I see. How do I say? I think in every industry, right, including hairdressing, fashion, I'm sure you see in photography and video, everything has sort of shifted over the years. It's like anything, it's sort of evolved. You see, many years ago, right, there would be absolutely no way, how do I put it, a Western person like yourself would come into a salon, it's going like, oh, I want to look like this guy from BTS.
Yeah.
Like there will be no way, because the way fashion and the way people see culture now is very crossed. Back in the day when I first started, it's so different. I can even say it now. Like when I first came to Australia, when I started, after I became qualified, I was going around looking for work, and the funny thing is, a lot of salons would hire me, is because they see that I'm Asian. I was like, oh, dude, this guy is Asian. We have to hire him. Yeah. I was like, they see me as a token Asian at the time. I was like, shit, I'll run with that.
Yeah.
I'm happy, like whatever, I got a job.
Yeah.
So it was very, very interesting time for me because there was a lot of things that happened in the 90s in Perth. You know, there was an era where a slightly darker time in Perth. I'm not sure you know this. They call it the Go Home Asians era.
No, I'm not aware.
There were
What year was
riots.
this? Sorry?
There were riots in Perth.
What year around?
Around, I think it was the early 90s or mid 90s.
Okay.
Where Chinese restaurants were getting bombed,
Really?
firebombed, and then there
In
was a lot of racism in Perth.
Oh,
there
wow.
was a lot of these kind of things that happened. This was just before my family came. But when my family came, there was a massive shift where Asians became a little bit more acceptable.
Yeah.
And that's when I came in. I was like, oh man, everybody loves me. I get everywhere I go, people want to offer me a job. This is awesome. So it was like a massive shift, 180 turn around that time in the 90s. So I was like, okay, this is quite good.
And yeah, if you look at today, complete shift.
Complete shift.
I think even if you look at all like Western media, everything. I've been following K-pop for a little bit. The way K-pop has just skyrocketed and
it's
influenced
insane.
like everything, even
Yes.
Australia. It's crazy.
It's mind blowing because being 39 now, sort of seeing how everything has sort of changed and sort of how culture has evolved in media, in social media, in everything. It's so mind-boggling. I just wouldn't realize like this is how we end up. So it's actually really it's very exciting time we're living in.
Yeah, I think I was saying before. Sometimes I feel like Australia has sort of this identity crisis of like not knowing who we are as Australians. But I think it's that multiculturalism that's our power.
I think it shouldn't matter. I think it shouldn't matter that we're, trying to figure out. I think we shouldn't need to figure out, okay, what kind of identity we are, because I think tradition. I think the word tradition it's nonsense. People always look back. Oh, this is what we should do. This because this is tradition. I think we should forget about tradition and sort of embrace what's happening now and recreate and just live the moment, man.
Yeah.
What we live right now, what we're living in right now is so exciting. This is the new tradition that we're living in, and multicultural how do I say it? Living. It's just a very exciting time we're living in.
Yeah, and what do you think? Because I think, I would say the average Australian person still doesn't really care about fashion here. I think it's improved. Obviously, you were saying it's changed over the years, fashion and style and all of that, and more people are doing it. But
I think there is care. There is care. Australians do love fashion. They love fashion. They care about the image, but it's different. What they like and what they need of an Australian woman or a person, right? The wants and needs are different. I'll give you an example. This, I gotta give you a story to lead up to what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So when I first finished my hairdressing courses here, when I became qualified hairdresser in Australia, because I spent about 2.5 years to become qualified here in Australia, right? And then when I first finished my course, I went around and looking for work, and I quickly, like I said, everybody wants to hire me because I'm Asian, right?
Yeah.
And then their thought is if I hire an Asian person, automatically he can handle all my Asian clients. This is the funny thing. After I finished my course, I realized I have one big problem. I didn't know how to do Asian hair.
Wow.
I thought I did, but I didn't know how to do Asian hair.
But you came from Malaysia.
Exactly.
Aren't they?
But remember, the first few years, right? I didn't actually touch Asian hair at all. I maybe washed it. I didn't actually know how to cut it. I didn't know how to cut Asian hair. I didn't know how to style Asian hair. I didn't know how to color Asian hair properly.
Are you saying you just had Western clients? Or?
Yes,
Oh,
because I studied in Australia, and majority of my clientele.
Okay, so you weren't actually cutting hair and styling hair in Malaysia before.
No, because I was still an apprentice then.
Okay, you're just an apprentice. Okay.
So when I studied in Australia, yes, I have contact, with Asian hair. I know how to cut Asian because hair is hair, isn't it? But I didn't understand Asian hair, which is very ironic because I'm Asian, right? Because automatically you think like I would know how to do it.
Okay, you gotta tell me like what is the difference between
Asian hair, Caucasian hair?
Asian hair, Caucasian hair,
Oh, massive
other
difference.
people's hair?
Okay, this is where it gets good. Okay, so with Asian hair, because Asian hair is naturally dead straight, okay? So it's really straight, really coarse, and there's lots of it. Caucasian hair, naturally it's curly, wavy, or wavy straight, and it's fine. So let's say if I were to cut Asian hair, if I make a mistake on Asian hair, it's crazy obvious. If I do the same mistake on Caucasian hair, I'll probably say 50% of the time you can't tell, which is crazy because when there's wave and there's movement, you don't know if it's done properly. But if Asian hair, because it's so straight, even the slightest mistake, it's very obvious. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, so after I finished my course, I went around and worked for a year or two. I realized like, holy shit, I'm really bad at cutting Asian hair. So I actually went back to Asia for a couple of years and retrained myself all over again. But it was totally different for me again when I went back to Asia, because when I went back to Asia, I had very good education, a stronger education in hairdressing. So when I went back to Asia, they used me differently. They're like, oh, you came from Australia. Good, you can teach us how to do Caucasian hair. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because at the time, nobody else knew how to do Caucasian hair. I did. I was like, great, I'm teaching how to do Caucasian hair in Asia.
Already I can see how like traveling different places, because you were saying before you love to travel. Yeah. Like traveling gives you that perspective, and then you're kind of using that perspective in a different place. You're like, that's what's different about you. Like you've picked up something
different things from everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So this is sort of my first exposure to traveling. You know, so after coming to Australia, I realized, yep, I've learned my skill. I learned how to do hairdressing in Australia, do Caucasian hair, and okay, shit, I'm not good at doing Asian hair. Let's go back to Asia, okay? But I already know how to do Caucasian hair, and using that knowledge and basically teach myself to become an educator in Malaysia, in Asia in general, okay? And when I was in Malaysia, I actually worked in the hairdressing academy. Yep. While I was learning how to do Asian hair properly, I was like, okay, I gotta teach everybody how to do foils, because in Asia nobody does like full head highlights. That doesn't make sense. Or in Australia nobody does perm, right? Like now it's really popular, but at the time when I was in Australia, like nobody wants to do perms. So I actually went back to Malaysia and I learned how to do perms. So that way I can I don't know, learn another extra skill. And then so spending like 2.5 years in Malaysia was really eye-opening for me. And then that's when I started to realize like, okay, now I know how to do Asian hair well. Now I also have the knowledge to how to teach properly as well, because after spending some time in a hairdressing academy, I've learned how to, how to educate people properly. Because when you teach someone something, you can just not tell them, okay, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. You're just sort of directing people how to do something, but and how to actually educate someone properly, you also have to inspire them as well. So I spend a little bit of time just understanding people and how to actually how to really guide them properly and making sure that they actually learn the skill properly.
And did you always have this kind of inner drive to teach? Like, was it something you always wanted to do from the beginning, or like, I want to learn this so I can teach this? Or
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that comes naturally. I think every time when I learn something, I felt the need to share it constantly. So I think that's sort of like why I eventually realized that yes, I love hairdressing, but I think I should really start teaching it.
I think that's so important for creatives to have, especially if you want to go a long way, because quite often I find, for example, maybe you're a stylist, you're styling yourself, that's how you learn. But if you want to grow bigger than something that's just yourself, you need to do it for other people. Like your purpose has to kind of be for others, not just yourself, because you could say for your styles, you're posting photos of yourself, but then the kind of level above that is teaching.
It is,
kind of
it
sharing
is. But I never thought of it that way. I just felt like I just want to share. Because like I have worked for many businesses before where my ex-bosses, they would not want to share because they feel like, oh man, I can't fully show you everything that I know, because if not, you're going to open another salon next door to me and become better than me. You're going to steal my business. I was like, yo, I don't have that kind of mentality. My mentality is more like, I see that this is a very unique craft, and I just feel the need to just show it to someone else so that someone else can learn it. I just have this need to share. So nothing malicious or anything like that. I just feel the need to share. Because to me, it's like, this is not Kung Fu, man. You know, there's no secret to it. Everybody should learn this.
Yeah, I just think, I think it's probably something, you automatically had, but also if you want to grow as a creative person, you want to dedicate yourself to the craft, you're going to kind of always end up being the master or the teacher. It's like in any sort of art, whether it is Kung Fu or like martial arts, or you get to a point and you almost have to become a teacher, because if you're not, then you're just a student in a way, and you're kind of doing it, there's a higher purpose for doing it for other people, and it's like you kind of have to learn everything.
I think so. I tell this to all my apprentices as well. Like, I tell this to every apprentice that ever been my apprentice who are seniors now, and people who has ever worked for me, right? They know this, I say this a lot. I always tell them that my goal for them, yes, I spent a lot of years traveling. Everything I learned, I want to teach them everything.
Yeah.
Because my goal for everybody that's ever been my apprentice or my junior is to one day become better than me. I think that is really, really important, because I feel like if it's just, if I don't teach them 100%, if I don't give them 100% of what I've learned, I probably have failed them. So I always say the same thing. I always say that, like, my goal is for them to one day become better than me.
Yeah.
If not, I failed you.
Yeah, I think that's such a good outlook to have, like that sort of giving mentality, because I did find, especially growing up in Perth, I think it's changed completely. We were talking about this earlier, is that mentality of keeping the information for yourself. Because if you have the information and no one else has, you can beat your competitors, and don't share the knowledge.
We don't need to have that kind of mindset. We don't need that because for me, right, I see, like, I've been done this for like 20 plus years now. If I don't share whatever I've learned over the last couple of years, it's going to be lost. I spent so many years like learning all the things that I have, right? And then if I don't share it, if I don't give it to everybody else, right, it's going to be lost. It's going to be a lost, lost information, lost craft, So that's why I said, like, I always tell everybody, if you're going to be my apprentice, you're going to learn from me, use me, ask me questions, like get the most out of me, because I want you to learn everything that you can possibly learn from me, and then make it your own. Don't go to everyone and go like, yeah, I learned this from Daniel, this is Daniel style. It's like, nah, man, make it your own. Now you've learned everything from me, that is your foundation, and then make it your own. I say this to all my classes. Everywhere I go, I teach them a particular skill or technique of like coloring hair, cutting hair, whatever. I was like, good, this is everything that I've learned. Now I've packaged it into like a class. You have now learned it. It's not mine anymore. This is yours. I want you to make it yours now. I think it's really important, because this is something that I wish all my previous bosses and teachers would have told me, because that would have motivated me even more at the time. Because I felt like, why are all my ex-bosses assholes? Like, why do they feel like I'm stealing from them, but then why hire me?
Yeah.
You know, it's really weird. It's really, really weird. So when it was my turn, I was like, nah, fuck it. I want everybody to learn everything I have. There's no secret ingredient.
Yeah, it's like, my mindset now is like, if I level up, the people around me level up, you can kind of, it's about community, like level up the community.
Yeah, we grow together, right?
Grow together.
Yeah.
And
that feels so much better.
Yeah.
Like even the salons around me, around this area, right? I never saw anybody as my competition. I really, really never seen anybody as competition. So I always thought like, if they do it, that's pretty cool. But most of the time, we just sort of I guess, mind our own business.
And have you seen like the hair sort of community? How has the hairstyling sort of community changed since you?
Oh, massively, massive. I can tell you about my journey when I first started my business here in Perth.
I guess I want to know, like, because I guess your story, you went back to Malaysia and you learned more about styling Asian hair.
Yep.
And then when you came back, was that when you started your business, or were you
Yes.
working for somebody else?
Long story short, after I spent a couple of years in Malaysia, I sort of came back to Australia. And I was like, I actually quit hairdressing for a bit. I quit hairdressing for 2 years. And then I think I was just reaching a point where I was just a little bit tired. I was doing it for so long, and then I just felt like my career was going nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, being passionate is one thing, but I felt like my career was just not hitting anything. So I quit, and I actually went and did commercial cookery. I went and studied to become a chef. Oh my God, I loved it. It's good, but it's also a bit of a problem after I studied commercial cookery, because once I've learned how commercial cookery works, every single time when I go to a restaurant, I basically know how they make that food.
This is when you came back to Australia?
After I came back to Australia.
Oh, really? So you were studying
commercial cookery in Bentley.
Okay, and at the same time you're working as a hairstylist?
No. I just quit it completely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just went and just studied commercial cookery full time.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, like after I studied it, and then every time, even till now, when I go to a restaurant, I can pick apart how that's done, how that's being put together, and how that's cooked. But at the same time, like I fucking love cooking. It's so much fun.
I'm kind of understanding your kind of perspective on creativity a bit. Your love for kind of craftsmanship. So whether it's in the kitchen, food, is that where your love for creativity lies in
I just have a very strong appreciation for how things are being made and how things are being put together. Because I can look at a plate of, like a plate of chicken rice.
Yeah.
I can look at it as like, yeah, this plate of rice took probably like 12 ingredients and then maybe about 6 hours to actually put together.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the person that actually took the time to put this together and sell it for like $15. It's crazy. It's so much work. So when I look at this piece of food, I was like, fuck, this is amazing. The same way I would look at someone's hair. You know, it's every time I look at someone's hair, you know, I could just pick apart what is that hairdresser thinking, you know, when he's doing the haircut, and how long it will actually take him to do that fade or the mullet or the perm, you know. So I can see that, and I appreciate it.
It's so cool, hey. It's like when you learn about a certain creative craft, like you see it in a new way. Just like when I sort of got into fashion and styling, that sort of thing. You can see the material of the shirt. Like before I knew anything about clothes or anything, I was like, what's the difference between this plain white shirt and this plain white shirt? Yeah. Couldn't tell the difference, but now I can literally see someone walking down the street and you can tell that's a high quality material, that's cheap, the way it like flows. It's crazy, like I could not for the life of me tell that before, and then you see the world in a whole different way.
Exactly.
Same with photography. I can tell just by looking at a photo what lens they used, probably the quality of the lens, you know, like the style of the photographer, everything like that.
It's really good. I love that, but the problem with that is it's also a double-edged sword, because you sort of see past the illusion.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you go to a movie, right? You go watch a movie, you want to be in the fantasy. But being a hairdresser, right, and knowing the things that I know, I'll watch the movie and go like, oh yeah, I see the wig. You know, oh, I see how that scene's being put together. I was like, oh shit. I want to be immersed in that illusion. Yeah. But at the same time, in that fantasy, but at the same time, it's like, I know how that's being put together.
Yeah, there's an interesting quote. I don't know who said it, but it's kind of like, it was about filmmaking, and he's saying, if you're thinking about how the film was made, like the techniques, if you're thinking like, oh, wow, that's such an amazing technique that he used, then it's not a good film because it's taking away from the story.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So for me, I don't know. Yes, it's a bit of a problem, but at the same time, I love it. Yeah. I actually enjoy it. Yeah.
So you were working. You quit hairstyling.
Yep.
And then you're working as a chef.
Yes. So after I'd done commercial career for a while, you know, I worked in a restaurant or two, and I just felt the moment I started working in a restaurant, I sort of lost that how do I say, that drive to keep wanting to become a chef, because I lost my love in I don't know, in cooking right away, because I think it's the romantic side of, you know, becoming a chef is gone.
Yeah.
Because the moment you start working in a restaurant, you realize like, holy shit, being a chef is fucking hard.
Yeah.
You know, that's the cooking part is a romantic part.
Yeah.
You know, it is the cleaning that sucks, because you have to clean as you go. You have to clean before you start your shift, and after all the cooking, you have to clean again. Like I hate cleaning, man.
It's so interesting, like because people are going to see any creative art and they're going to romanticize it because, oh, you're a painter, you just sit in your beautiful studio and you just paint this amazing work.
Exactly, right?
The worst one is, oh, you're a photographer, you just push a button, because that's the best example.
Yeah.
Because they think you are literally just pushing a button.
Yeah.
But it's like the years of, it's like kind of why you're pushing the button, the skills of learning, like the camera, each component of the camera. It's like the editing, the thought process behind that shot.
Exactly.
Boom. It's like that click is different from someone who just starts photography and clicks. So yeah,
it's not as simple as it looks. So that, I think after I worked in a restaurant, that sort of broke me a little bit. I was like, I think I shouldn't work in a restaurant. I think I should just maintain what I've learned, and maybe I should just go back to hairdressing, because I realized how hard it is to become a chef. So I appreciate chefs. I understand what they do. I mean, every single time when I go to a restaurant, you know, I always peek into the kitchen and go like, man, I salute you guys. Thank you for creating this plate of food for us.
Yeah,
you know?
I think being a chef isn't for the
it's not for the money. It's like, if you look at every chef out there that's doing really, like, they're good at what they do, it's because they fucking love it. They really love what they do. It's not because, you know, it's the glory of becoming a chef. They actually love it.
The other thing, like, I'm kind of thinking, like, being a chef is tough in so many ways, especially if you're a creative, because you can't actually see people's reaction to your work. Like,
yes, you can't.
Like, as any other creative industry, you can actually see them. You can show them, like, what do you think of this photo? Or you can see their reaction when you style their hair.
Yes.
But when you're a chef, you're kind of in the back completely.
Exactly.
Getting shouted at.
Yeah. I think that's the thing I felt, you know, when I was younger, when I was, you know, training to be a chef, I felt like it's great, you know, you're creating all this amazing food, but the thing that I feel at the time I just needed was recognition. I feel like I do all this how I felt I need to be recognized, you know, so I just felt that need to be seen. So I think that was one of the reasons why I went back into hairdressing, because I realized that, you know what, I'm actually really good at what I do. Maybe I should just go back to hairdressing. So I actually quit, like, commercial career completely, and then jumped straight back to hairdressing. Yeah. And this is where it starts to shift in my career as well.
So it wasn't when you quit hairdressing and you went to being a chef, was that to do with money at all, or just?
I think it wasn't to do with money. I think it was just, I was just tired. I was just a bit burnt out, because, you know, I've been doing it for at the time, okay, I started, this was, okay, so let's say I started hairdressing in 1999, and then I quit to study commercial cookery to be a chef in 2008. So, you know, it got solid like 10 years there, you know, 11 years there, you know, so I felt like shit, like, I just felt stuck that my career wasn't going anywhere. That's why I just felt like I needed to change my career. And then after that, you know, I realized that, you know what, I'm actually really good at what I do. So it's good that I had a taste of something else, but it's time to go back to what I'm good at.
Okay, so you just kind of followed your inner tuition.
Yes.
Okay.
So
and then you quit being a chef and you went straight back into
hairdressing.
And you're working for somebody else?
So I went around, this was back when I was back in Perth now, so I sort of went around, worked for a few different salons, you know, and then it was okay, you know. I wasn't making good money, but there was one particular salon I was working for. I'm not going to name them, but I'm glad things happened the way they did, because if not, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
So I was working for this salon, and then again, this salon, majority of the hairdressers and the owner, they were all Australian.
Yeah.
I think there were only just like maybe me and another Asian hairdresser at the time. And then as I was working with them, you know, they were very curious about what Asian hairdressing salons were like. And then at the time, Asian hairdressing salons were only in Chinatown. There weren't any known Asian hairdressers, right? So some of the girls would come and ask me, it's like, oh, Dan, like, what are Asian salons like? Aren't they like really dodgy? I was like, what's so dodgy about the salons? Oh, cause like, I don't know, you don't know what goes on in the back. I was like, really?
Oh, okay.
I was like, so that sort of like messed with my head a little bit. I was like, oh, so I can start to see now that they don't think that Asian hairdressing is real hairdressing. So I think that sparked a little bit of, I don't know, I wouldn't call it anger, but a little bit of, I felt like I needed to prove something.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. You guys don't think Asian hairdressing is anything unique? And then couple months later, I think I had a big fight with the manager, you know, I think over something very little. I think there was already something inside me that goes like, I'm ready to quit. Just mess with me today, and I'm ready to walk out. And literally something happened. I think it's just over cleaning.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck it, I walked out. And then I had no plan. And then I was slowly walking down Wolf Lane.
Yeah.
And then I walked into this little arcade, which is Arcade 800, which is next door to the Apple Store. And I saw a shop that says Felice. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna start my own business.
Shit.
Just like that. And then I'm gonna make sure I put a name there that makes it obvious that it is an Asian hair salon. I was like, oh fuck, I have no idea what I was doing. So I called up the agent and go like, yep, I want to rent this space. Remember, like I had no money. Like I probably had like maybe 10 grand in my account. Like, okay, it's not that it's no money, it's not enough to start a business.
Yeah.
Like there's no way I would succeed. And then somehow I hustled my way to renting that shop. Okay, again, with no money.
How did you like?
How do I put everything together?
It's expensive putting like the
It is
chairs
really
and
expensive.
the mirrors and
So I maxed out my credit card. I maxed out, like, to start off with, right, to even put a deposit for a shop, I think the shop was pretty cheap because it was only 64 square meters. It is tiny. So I think that the monthly rental was about 2,800 a month. That's pretty cheap, right? And then I only need to put a deposit of 3 months rent. I was like, cool, that is everything I have. Fuck it, let's go. And everything else, I'll just put it on my credit card.
yeah.
And then there were so many things I need to do to actually start off a shop. I just sort of figured out as I go. One thing I remembered, I had to do a plan for city council to accept before they actually allow me to actually start building my salon. I was like, you need to find someone who is a, what do you call them? To basically draw a layout plan for your shop. And then I can't hire someone to actually do it. I can't afford it. So I'm like, shit, maybe I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
And then maybe try to get city council, like city of Perth to approve it. So what I did was I went on Google, and I Google image like salon layout.
Yeah.
And I copied most of the like layout of what a salon would look like. I went to the shop and measured everything myself, and sort of put like copy and paste onto like I think it's like a A3 or A2 paper. I just print it all out in Officeworks, and then I make it look like an architect did it or a draftsman did it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, I think this is about right. This looks pretty legit, okay? Because I made it as legit as possible, and then I just submitted to city council. And then I was like, please go through, you know. I'm not sure how illegal that actually is. And then city council, one of the councilmen actually called me up and said, oh, Mr. Yap, I kind of need you to come in to talk about your floor plans. I was like, fuck, he got me. So when I went into City Council, he opened up my plans. It's like, oh, these are actually pretty good, but you're a draftsman. He's American, isn't he? I was like, what do you mean? Oh, everything like is in inches. And in Australia, you know, it's the metric system. I was like, yeah, that's right. He's American, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's fine. It's not a big deal. And he stamped it right in front of me. And he went through. I was like, oh, I hustled, I lied my way through. So that's how, if not, to hire a draftsman at the time, it's $2,000 to $3,000. And I just didn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So that was one win for me. And then after that, I was like, I had to start getting chairs. I just maxed out everything to get mirrors. I bought most of my mirrors from my IKEA. I bought most of my chairs. They weren't even real salon chairs. They were actually like outdoor furniture.
Was it similar to this? This is very like stripped back.
Nah, man, this is, my first salon was so raw. Imagine it was so raw. It was just, I just have to sort of dress everything up to make it look creative. Yeah, I made a chandelier out of tree branches, and I sort of spray printed it, wrapped everything up with cables, and just put light bulbs in it and make it look like it's a chandelier. I was like, ooh, that looks kind of cool. So I sort of made everything look really creative. But everything is super DIY. Yeah. Yeah, and even the floors, we didn't even have proper flooring. So I just bought one of those vinyl and just laid the vinyl myself. Mm-hmm. So I just DIY'd my entire salon. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's pretty crazy with a budget of like, with a shoestring budget, and everything was in credit. And even the products I got for the salon, the shampoos, the conditioners, the colors, everything was just enough to last me 2 weeks actually. So if I didn't do well in 2 weeks, that's it. It's over.
So how are you getting your clients at this point? Is it
the best part. Well, you know what? I had no clients. So my plan was I went around to all the neighboring salons that's around me, and I check out what their prices were. And then whatever all their prices is, I make sure mine was just a little bit cheaper than everybody else.
And is this you're saying you're outside? Is it saying like hairstyling? Because obviously being a barber or hairdresser is totally different. You're saying like hairstyling, so
everything. Yeah, everything. So I went around to all the barbershops, all the salons, everybody. I check out what the local prices are, what everybody's price is. And I'm just like, yep, whatever you guys charge, I'm cheaper than you guys. Yeah. So my goal was just to get as many clients as I possibly could. And then I think I just, not too worried about how much money I charge at the time. I just want to get people in the door. Yeah. And then it actually worked. People don't mind, you know, they didn't care too much how good my work was. They just wanted to get a cheap haircut. Yeah. I was like, great. Okay, I did that for like a couple years. And then slowly my prices went up, you know. I slowly realized that, okay, my work is starting to have a little bit more quality now. I can start to charge a little bit more. And clients didn't mind. They start to realize that the type of work I was producing was quality work. Yeah. And I think after 1 year, I realized like, you know what? I think I'm ready to start proving myself to the industry. So remember how I talked about, you know, all these other salons, they were like, oh, so Asian salons are like a bit dodgy, aren't they? That has stuck with me for like years, even till now. So I knew straight away, like, okay, first of all, I have to prove to the industry that I'm somebody. And how do you prove that? By competing. So I knew at the time, if you want the industry to notice you, you have to compete in hairdressing competitions. Yeah. So the way I compete, there's two types of hairdressing competitions. One is the photographic competition, where you take a photo, you hire a fancy photographer that would give and a really, really fancy model, and then the best of everything to create this beautiful photo, and you can compete. Yeah. Okay, that's that type. I personally don't like that because I feel like it's too manicured. For me, the type of competition I love is live, because the live competitions, how it works is, if you are really skilled, they put you together with, I don't know, 10 or 20 different other hairdressers with a live model. They give you half an hour and go. and then you cut, you style, you do what you do in that half an hour time. And you prove yourself like, this is how skilled I am. Because to me, like if you want to compete, if you're good, you want to compete with me, we do it live. You know, competitions where you hide behind a camera, you sort of styling, and you do touch-ups and you Photoshop edit. I was like, that's not a real competition.
Yeah.
So this is going to be like tricky to say, but I personally do not respect certain like hairdressing titles in Australia. So there are a lot of hairdresser of the year. And how they earn these titles is by hiring a really good photographer, hiring a really good model, hiring like, you know, the right setup to take the perfect photo. I was like, sorry man, I don't respect you because that you use money to purchase this, right? For me, if you say you are good, compete with me live in front of everybody, show your skill live. That's how I see it. So to me, that's real competition. So the first year that I competed was a state championships in WA. So I actually went in with a plan because the year before I actually went and watched it, and I went and learned how people compete, and I went to learn who my competitors are, who I'm going against. So the second year when I came back ready, and I knew exactly how to compete.
Daniel is competitive in the industry.
Because that's the thing though, when you're, I was 28 at the time, 28, 29. And like I said, at that age, you feel like you have something to prove.
Well, I feel like that in photography as well. But with just going off the competition thing as well, I do feel like a lot of like photography competitions, I also agree, there's like too many things that is judged and it's not the photo. Like for photography exhibitions, they look at kind of your background and also your like your sort of connections, otherwise you don't get in. And like for example, there's even local competitions here. They're like, submit your CV, submit your who you are, who you know. It's like, why does that matter with the photo? Like,
what happened to just the work, right?
And then the caption and the story. So that's what annoys me about photography competitions. So it's similar to what you experienced, because it just should be about the core of creativity, the core of taking the photo, the core
it should be
styling, not anything else.
So it should be. So that's why the photography hairdressing competitions, I used to compete in them, but I never loved them. I did it because I felt like I needed to, but even till now, I never respected it. That's how I honestly feel about it. But I love live competitions because if you're truly skilled, you do it live. So coming back to the first time I competed in WA. So I went in with a plan. I knew there was something like 13 categories in the competition. There was color, creative color, there was like upstyling, there was cutting, there was barbering, there was all these different categories. And I knew, and usually when people compete, they only pick 1 or 2 categories to compete, right? And I knew I wanted to win. I competed in every single category that's available. So
is this one competition and they had different categories?
Yes. Okay. So every time when they do a different category, you know, I'm in it. Upstyling, I'm in it. Barbering, I'm in it. Creative coloring, I'm in it. I'm in every single one. So that means, because everything is through a point system, right? So the more I'm in, the more points I'll collect, you know? So most of the hairdressers, they're like, oh, I'll just do color. I'll just do color and cutting, but I won't do this, I won't do that. I was like, okay. I joined every single one of them. And I already came with a plan. I knew how to beat every single one of them.
Cool.
So long story short, I did win a lot of the categories. Some of them, I didn't just submit 1 model. I submitted 2 to 3 models per category. So some of the categories, I went first, second, third, first, second, third, first, second, third. I went home, I think the first competition with something like 20 something trophies that day, including Salon of the Year, Hairdresser of the Year in WA. So I came to like dominate. That day, I made sure people remember my name. I made sure people realize that this is Asian hairdressing. This is what you didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Because I use the knowledge that I've traveled and I understood how it works and I brought it back here.
Yeah.
It's not to really show people how fucking good I am, but it's to show like, this is what you're missing out.
Yeah, I think that's so important to learn from different countries. Like travel is so important in being a creative person because you're learning from different perspectives. Every country, every place, every culture has like a different way they're looking at things. So if you can look at that, if you can look at your craft from each angle, then you're gonna like have this unique perspective. And even I've talked about this with like musicians or DJs or people in different creative industries who live in Perth. The ones who are really doing well at the craft are saying, I want to bring this from here, I want to bring this to Perth.
Exactly.
That's what we're missing. People haven't seen it before.
Exactly. So because the previous year, when I watched how hairdressers compete, I realized we were stuck 20 years behind. And then if they want to see something fresh, I got something fresh for them because I've traveled.
Yeah.
I always tell people to travel. And don't just go to Bali, man, you know?
Yeah.
I always tell people like it's important to travel because it is important to be cultured.
Yeah. Or even just on Bali. When people go to Bali, they don't even experience the culture.
They don't.
Like they just go to Seminyak and
just party,
go
right?
to Potato and just party. It's like Indonesia has such a unique culture, like an arts and culture, and it's amazing. But people just think of it as a party island, and it's so much more.
It's so misunderstood. It's so misunderstood. You know, like Indonesia, it's such a strong and unique culture.
Yeah.
You know, so everywhere I travel now, right? I do spend a lot of time in the city, right? But whenever I travel, I try to see the country.
Yeah.
Because when you start going to the country, right, you sort of see how people live. They're so different from people in the city. Because to me, in the world, the city, everywhere you go is the same. All the cities are the same. You know, if you really want to learn about culture, go to the country.
Yeah, because when you think about it, when you go to the city, it's like city culture because
it's the same.
It's learning, like it's like a copy and paste, almost like.
Exactly.
What's the best grid system to navigate in the city? Like what?
Same shit, buildings. You know, same shit, different smell.
Yeah. But when you go to the kind of countryside, that's when you can get a unique perspective and a unique culture.
Absolutely. So, and I always tell everybody, like, if you can, right, don't spend your money on going back to the same place every single time. If you can, you know, whatever money you save, go travel to somewhere that you've never been before, somewhere that's gonna like shock you, you know, because the moment you feel, when you go to somewhere that's uncomfortable, right, that's where you actually start to learn.
Yeah.
You know, we're only afraid of things that we don't understand. So sometimes it's okay to be a little bit scared because you'll be surprised what you learn from.
Where's a place that you haven't traveled to that you think would be like unique and different from what you experienced?
Man, I've got an amazing bucket list. One of the places that I've always wanted to go, it's actually Tibet.
Oh, okay.
Tibet has always been a place where I feel like it's such a mystery to me. And again, you know, I've traveled to so many different countries over the years. I travel nearly every single month since I started my business to different countries, to different like places everywhere. But Tibet is one of those places where I feel like it's still so romantic to me. It's something very mysterious about it. And then because I'm a Buddhist.
Yeah.
And then, you know, for Buddhists, it's like the place you must go to I don't know, achieve enlightenment. I don't know. I just feel like that's where I really want to go to, I don't know, find myself. Yeah. Yeah. So Tibet is somewhere that I really, really want to go.
Okay. Yeah. And also I guess it's quite isolated, and when you go to this
isolated enough, and it's not a city.
From other
it's totally different place. You know, that's where I see myself.
Have you ever traveled to, or have you ever been inspired by, say, like African culture, African hairstyles?
Oh, absolutely,
like that?
Absolutely.
I was born in South Africa. I came here when I was 5. My dad is ethnoecologist, ethnobotanist, who works with people and plants, and he always travels there. So I had the opportunity of going to Africa a lot, traveling to places like Namibia, which is like super interesting and unique. And Africa is really interesting, and I think if you go to places like New York,
Yep.
they're
Yep.
actually inspired like by African art and like African basketry, African chairs,
Yep.
and African like wooden art and that sort of thing. Here, not so much. Here, I think
Yep.
it makes sense that we've got a lot of inspiration from Asia and Southeast Asia because that's like close. We got
Yep.
Bali, Malaysia,
Yep.
and then Vietnam, and all the way up to like Bhutan.
Yep.
But yeah, Africa is, I feel like it's a unique place that has a lot of inspiration there as well.
I think Africa really does. Okay, so a lot of people don't know this. African culture and like even African hip hop culture, African American culture, right? Actually heavily influence Asian hairdressing. A lot of people don't actually know that.
Yeah, because like K-pop basically came from hip hop.
Hip hop and all that as well. So like a lot of people again don't realize this, but like a lot of Asians love perming their hair to make it look like an afro, like nappy, like afro hair.
I think it actually looks quite
we
good.
love that shit.
Yeah.
We love that shit. We love it. So we Asians perm their hair to such a way that they love dreadlocks. They love the afro.
Yeah.
You know, I've done it on my staff before. We had people come in and request to have the perm to turn it into like an afro.
Yeah.
So like we actually embrace it. People always go like, oh, you're doing like, you know, African hair. So isn't that what's the word that
like
appropriation?
Cultural appropriation.
I was like, no, man.
Yeah.
We're embracing it.
Yeah,
we love it so much. We want to copy you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then if you go to certain parts of Asia, right? People like get like the Afro perms and like it's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so if anything, like it's also heavily influenced like Asian fashion, Asian culture. You know, especially with hip hop, man. Hip hop. You know, it's sort of like it's a strong foundation of Asian fashion, like you said, K-pop. You know,
because I think what I've learned is a lot of, you know, we have a lot of Asia has a lot of influence from K-pop, and K-pop came from hip hop, and that influence from America came from, I think, during like the Korean War and that sort of thing.
K-pop is very unique.
Yeah, South Korea had you know, a lot of influence from America, and then I think that's where that hip hop
culture. Yes, but even now, right? I'll probably say when it first started, yes, but if you really listen to K-pop these days, right? They actually combine hip hop, EDM, even heavy metal, and like rock, everything all in one song. Yeah. In one song, it has basically 4 elements. Yeah. It's actually really, really unique. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy that influence, and I think when you combined all these different elements from different cultures, and you come up with something new. So that's why I think a lot of the art here in Australia, it is like a fusion, because we have
absolutely
like a lot of, you know, just people from all over living here, and I think that's really cool.
It is. It really, really is. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to your story.
Yes. The competition. So
so it's like, if you guys can't see it, but up here in the TAO of Hair studio, you've got like, I don't know, man, like almost 100 trophies up there.
That's believe it or not, that's only a portion of trophies that's behind me. I do have a few more that's actually in milk crates.
Yeah.
Like I was like, dude, I can't fit it up there anymore. So at first, I've been contemplating for a while, like if I still want to like keep those trophies up there, because that signifies a time where I felt like I had something to prove.
Yeah.
You know, very interesting, very, very interesting, because the last competition I actually competed, so I've been competing every year ever since then. And the last competition I did was actually in Malaysia. So a lot of people don't know this. I've actually competed in the World Cup of Hairdressing before. So I actually represented Malaysia at the time, and I competed in bridal upstyling. So bridal upstyling is like, you know, it's a very unique category. So I did not win, but I think I came like 7th place in the world. I was like, yeah, it's okay. You know, I think it was against 40 countries at the time.
Wow. It
was good fun. But if you're not number one, it doesn't matter what you place. Yeah, but that was the last time I competed, and I was like, I felt like, you know what, I feel content.
Yeah,
I felt like,
I think it's probably something you have to go through. Like, I definitely feel like I have to prove myself. Like, my next sort of journey, I guess, with my photography career, I'm thinking, although I love, you know, like shooting Japan, and I was just shooting Tokyo Fashion Week this year. London seems to be like the hotspot for, it's kind of a creativity hotspot because you have, you know, a lot of fashion shows there, a lot of magazines there. You have like Vogue London, ID, a lot of like international brands are based there. But I'm kind of asking myself, why do I want to go there and kind of shoot these celebrities, shoot for these big brands? What's the reason? Is it to have sort of clout or something like that, or is it something I have to get over? But I think it's just part of the journey, maybe.
I think so. Yeah. Sometimes you have to ask yourself these kind of questions, because sometimes this is what I mean, where I got lost sometimes. You know, when I was doing my hairdressing, because I felt like I was doing all these things, but it was sort of like getting nowhere. I was like, why am I doing this? Is it exactly like you said? Is it for clout? Is it for? But I think you have to go through these kind of stages to sort of find yourself.
Maybe it's part of your kind of childhood dream. Like,
yeah.
Your childhood dream is to like achieve something. Like, even you were saying you wanted to prove. You have something to prove, and then once you kind of prove that,
I felt like I proved myself enough, you know. After the last competition where I competed against, you know, 40 countries, you know, I realized like, I think it's fine. I think I'm happy where I am. I've already proven myself, you know. There's nothing left to prove, you know. And then because I wanted, like I said, I wanted to make a name for myself in the industry.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I've already done it. I don't need to be the best. I think I was like, I don't know. I think I just matured. I just grew up, and I just realized like, you know, it's okay. I think it's time for me to move on.
So what's driving you now? If driving you was kind of proving yourself, has it shifted?
Massively. So after my last competition, I realized that I needed to expand my business because my goal was to, I guess, my focus was my clients, you know, because doing all these things to prove yourself, yes, but it costs money, you know, and then it's just an image that how I want people to see me. And then what I mean when I grew up is because I realized that it's not important anymore. I stopped giving a shit about what people think about me. Instead, I stopped thinking about me and started thinking about everybody else. What if I start taking care of my clients, you know, instead of doing all these things to make people look at me?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's focus on, you know, doing good work on clients. If I do a good job on one client, that client is going to tell another client. That client is going to tell another client. And then that's sort of how I grow my business.
Yeah.
And then I started focusing on like, okay, how do I create an environment to make my clients feel comfortable? You know, that's how I sort of came to building this salon. And then my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, and then we decided to like, you know what, let's do this together. Let's build a business, and let's do something that I guess Perth doesn't really have yet at the time.
How did you meet your wife? Was it through hairdressing? Was she one of your clients?
Yeah, so funny story. So I met my wife the first week I opened my business.
Okay.
So when I opened my business, right, my wife was actually, she wasn't even my client actually. She was actually my staff's client at the time.
Yeah.
And then my staff, you're gonna love this. This is actually quite a romantic story, I think. And I think it was how we met, it was meant to be. So she came in, so my staff at the time, she actually had food poisoning the day before she came. So my staff was like, and she couldn't come to work. She was just so sick. So that was on a Tuesday, I think. And then on a Wednesday, that's when my wife came in, or my girlfriend, she came in to get a haircut. And I was like, oh shit, Hiroko's not here today. Do you mind if I do your hair for you?
Yeah.
And then she was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. So I did her hair, and then I was like, oh man, this chick is really cool. Maybe, you know, I just find her so interesting because she's actually in fashion. And then she used to work for a designer in Perth, a really well-known designer in Perth called Ruth Tarvidas. Ruth passed away, many years ago, but at the time she was like, so she was like D-shit.
Yeah.
If you didn't know this, Ruth's name is actually printed on the floor on King Street. You know how King Street has like those stars?
Oh, yeah.
So Ruth's name is actually on one of the floors.
Okay.
So she's like a big deal back in the day.
Okay.
And anyways, so come back to meeting my wife. And then she added me on Facebook. She sort of liked TAO of Hair's page on Facebook. I was like, yeah, this is my chance. I found you now. So I clicked it, we chatted, and I was like, ask her out. And then, we just hit it off from there. And then a couple days later, my staff, Hiroko, actually came to work. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I was sick, thank you for handling my clients. Oh, by the way, what do you think of Pei? Pei is my wife's name. And then I was like, what do you mean? What do you think? Oh yeah, because I was going to introduce Pei to you. I was like, oh, really? You were gonna set us up? I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, we already went on a date. You see? So I guess it was meant to be. There's quite a funny story. So I guess we've been together ever since. I think we've been together 11 years now.
Okay.
And then we've been married for 4.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing.
It's pretty good.
And it's your 40th birthday.
Yep.
Coming up.
Yep.
Man, you do not look 40, by the way.
Thanks.
You gotta drop your skincare routine.
Dude, it is not cheap to look this young.
We need a skincare sponsorship on this podcast.
Oh God, no. Believe it or not, I actually don't use skincare. The only thing I use is like I wash my face with soap, man.
So
like God, it's so bad. Don't follow that. The only thing I think that is good routine for my skin, I think I just use jojoba oil, and that's it.
Okay.
And that's like once every 2-3 days.
Yeah.
Like I really don't take care of my skin as much as I should. But if any advice I would give anybody out there is to use sunscreen.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Protect your skin, man.
Especially in Australia.
Yeah, especially Australia. I honestly am not doing it enough, but I should. But yes, everybody, sunscreen. Sunscreen is the way to go.
100%. So yeah, 40th birthday coming up, and you're doing something special this time.
Oh, okay. I love talking about this. Okay, so for my 40th birthday, I'm going to be doing a charity event where I will be doing 100 rainbow hair in 24 hours.
Wow.
So that means I will be coloring 100 rainbow like strips or other parts of the hair, 100 of them in 24 hours, non-stop. So I won't be sleeping. I'll be coloring hair non-stop for 24 hours.
That's
to
insane.
raise money for children with terminal illness. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's like, first of all, I don't know how you're going to do it. So you're going to have, is everybody going to be in here at once?
Well,
Like
we
you
sort
wouldn't-
of
you can't fit 100
organize
people in
everybody.
here. Can you?
Sorry?
Can you fit 100 people in here?
We can't, but the way I'm doing it, we sort of organize everybody to come in like specific timings, and we will have a team in here to help me organize all the clients that come in, so that all I need to do is just focusing on each client one at a time, and it's just color rainbow on the hair.
Okay. And why is supporting children with terminal illness important to you?
I think it's a bit of a story how I came to wanting to do something like this. I think it was a couple factors. Okay, what sort of inspired me to start wanting to do something like this is a couple months back, I went to a friend's 60th birthday. His name is Lloyd, and then back in the day, I think in Malaysia, he used to own like something like 7 salons. And when he came to Australia, I guess he just wanted to retire or have like a different lifestyle in Australia. So when he came to Australia, this was probably a couple years back, but when I went to his 60th birthday, which was a couple months ago, he did a charity event as well, where he did 48 haircuts in 24 hours. I was like, dude, this guy is 60 years old. Wow. He's doing this charity event. He's doing 48 haircuts. That means he's doing 1 haircut every half an hour, okay? And he did the same thing for this foundation, where he raised $50,000. I was like, holy fuck,
Yeah.
this is inspiring. If this is not inspiring, I don't know what is, right? And then he did it in his house, in his little home salon. Okay, and he did it all that, and he did it with a team, and I can see, you know, like his wife was so supportive of what he did, and I don't know, that inspired me right away, you know. And then I realized that this is what I want to do for my 40th.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, when you turn 40, you start to find meaning for your life. You know, you try to find legacy. You know, I think this could be my legacy as well. You know, it's all about, as you get older, it's all about what kind of legacy do I leave behind.
Yeah.
You know, what do people remember me for? And then I think I just reached a point in my life where I felt like I made enough money where I can travel whenever I want. I can buy whatever I want whenever I want. I don't need stuff anymore. I don't need anything. I don't need branded stuff anymore. You know, none of this justifies, you know, how I feel. So I felt like why not? I think it's time to give back.
Yeah.
You know, I think what I've done in this industry and my career has taken care of me really well. So I thought, like, you know what, it's time to just give back. And then a year or two ago, this comes back to how everything just sort of ignited me. I had a client that came into my salon. This is a really good story, actually. And I promise it'll come back to why I'm doing this charity as well. So this one client actually came into the salon, and she looked at me. I was like, oh, I think this is the new client. I've never seen her before. But when she came in, she was like, oh, she looked like she knew me. I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? I was like, oh, okay. I was like, and then she sat down, you know, I started doing hair. I said, hey, hi, how are you? I'm Daniel. She said, oh, she introduced her name to me. And I was like, cool. And then we started cutting the hair. You know, usually I start chatting with my clients. And then she was like, Daniel, can I tell you a story? I was like, of course you can. And she was like, Daniel, when I was a kid, I was actually homeless. I was like, oh, okay. Because the thing is, when clients come to the salon, they always feel like there's something they want to share that's personal. And as a hairdresser, you know, I learned to listen to them, you know, and people just wanted to share. And she was like, Daniel, when I was young, I was homeless when I was a kid. I was like, oh, really? And then she said, I was like 14 at the time, and I was homeless, and then my grandma passed away, and then I just didn't have a direction. I was like, you were homeless at 14? Why weren't you in the system? You know, why didn't you have a foster home? I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just ran away. And then she was actually in Frio as well at the time. And then you were 14 years old and you were homeless. Isn't that scary? She's like, I was just lost. And then she told me that, you know, she just didn't know what to do. She was just aimless. And she said that one day, you know, there were these hairdressers going around giving out free haircuts. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, oh, I need a haircut. I'll just go get a haircut from this hairdresser that was doing hair for free. I was like, okay. And I was like, how did the haircut go? It's like, so I was talking to the hairdresser. The hairdresser gave me really good advice because she said, like, I just didn't have people taking the time to just talk to me, you know. And then being 14, you just sort of lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, cool. And then what happened after that? So the hairdresser advised me that I should go into the system, and then I should go into foster care. From that way, I can, you know, go to school, be educated, and become somebody. You know, I was like, and what did you do? It's like, I listened, and I just, after my haircut, I felt great about myself. You know, something as simple as a haircut, I just feel like happy. You know, I feel like I got a purpose. You know, because, you know, after a haircut, you just feel good about yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, she was like, you know, after the haircut, I just went and just basically find my way into a foster care system. And then I just had direction. And it all was because of this hairdresser's like conversation with me. Yeah. And he just, I don't know, for a few seconds, he gave a shit.
Yeah, I think I was telling you before, like even in the past couple of months, I've discovered how valuable like a proper conversation is. Like a sit down and really talk about, you know, your life and what you're going through and your perspective on all that. And if you think about it, in sort of everyday life, the only time you have these sort of conversations is like the dinner table with your parents. You're sitting down over a meal, something like that, or like going out for a meal with your friends. Maybe a hairdresser, because you're sitting down for like half an hour. That's where you can really have the conversation. Yeah. Or podcasting. This is like gives it a reason. Yeah. To do that. Other than that, you're kind of like, you're at work. maybe you're going out with friends, or maybe you're just like drinking, and it's like, if it's not over a meal, it's kind of like very short conversation. You can't really talk about.
It can be very meaningful. It can be something as a simple conversation, right? Can be so meaningful to the point, right? It could change someone's life, you know. So to get back to the story, this is where it gets interesting. So she said, like, because of the conversation, right? It basically changed her life. It started to give her a bit of a purpose. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. And you know what she said to me after? You know what, Daniel? That hairdresser was you.
Oh, wow.
I was like, what? Yeah, that hairdresser was you. You just didn't remember me. I was like, I sort of stood back a little bit. I was like, fuck. Oh shit, I do know who you are. Because many years ago, I used to work in Frio. And then my ex-boss used to make us all go out and do free haircuts for people who are homeless, you know. And then at the time, I was like, yeah, and I remember this girl. And then I remember, you know, trying to give her advice. And then I was like, because I just like, she's just like lost, man. You gotta look for help. I was like, you don't have parents. You're just running around like aimlessly by yourself. And I was like, how did you know I was here? And how did you find me after all these years? It's like, oh, because I work in the city. And then one day I saw you walking. I was like, I know you. And she sort of followed me back to my salon. And she knew like, oh, I work here. And then she sort of like, I guess, Facebooked me or Googled me or whatever. And she found out that, you know, I run this place. And then she made an appointment. And she said that, yep, I want to make an appointment. And I want to tell you this story and how, you know, that little conversation that we had impacted my life.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy how one small conversation or gesture can change somebody's life.
So because of that, I realized like how important it is to do good, you know. And it was just a year or two, and I felt like something as simple as doing charity, you know. The money that we're raising is for children with terminal illness, you know. And because it took me a while to find the right charity that I want to go with, because the charity that we're going with is the Cune Foundation. And Cune is basically the color brand that we're stocking here. Yeah. And in Australia, they actually have their own foundation where they actually raise money by every single color tube that they sell to us. They take 10 cents and they put it in this fund. And that's the fund that they use to help, like, you know, families and, you know, children with terminal illness. And why I like them compared to all these other charities, right, the well-known charities, is because a lot of these charities, right, they take about 20 cents of the dollar, and they keep that 80% of the money that you give them for administration or pay off some CEO or whatever, and only 20 cents of the dollar goes to the family that needs it. And believe it or not, this is majority of the charities in Australia. So for me, I realized like, fuck, is this how charities work? Yeah. So I was a bit taken back, like whether I should actually do this or not. And then I spoke to the guys who actually run Cune Foundation, and I realized that they don't do that. 100% of every dollar that you donate is 100% of every dollar that will go to the family that needs it. Okay. And you know what? That aligns with what I believe in. Yeah. So I was like, yep, this is what I want to do. I want to raise money so that I can use this money and help someone. Yep. Don't care who I help. As long as I know I'm helping someone, I know it's going to impact them, even if it means that it's just a couple $100s. So our goal for this charity is to hit $100,000. Wow. I don't know if that's even possible, but it's just a goal. As you know, it's already been our first month. We already reached $10,000. Okay. And then we already have 73 participants, which is really, really good. But I think we can do a lot better. So we got a couple more months to go before my birthday. So hopefully, you know, we get more people to support my cause. Okay. Yeah.
And how does the donations work? Is it just a page that you go to, or how does it connect with the whole 100 people getting there? So
every person that's coming in to get their hair colored rainbow for the day, they just need to donate. For the first month, it's $100. You just need to donate the money, not to me, to your charity fund. Yeah. Okay. And for me, because you donate the $100 to this charity fund, I will do your hair for you. I'll do that rainbow on your hair for you. Okay. Yeah. And then because there's only a limited spots of 100, so if it goes, it goes. And then for everybody else that want to support the cause, they can go to my page and they could like click the link and just click donate. And then you can just donate. And you know, for everybody else, please be generous. Donate as much as you can, give as much as you can. You know, every dollar is appreciated.
And when is that happening?
So that is on the 27th of October. I will be starting on the 27th October at 6 p.m. and I will finish on the 28th 6 p.m.
So all-nighter.
A whole nighter, no stop. So I thought like I love, you know, like I love doing hair, so why not do it for 24 hours non-stop?
And you've got a team?
I do have a team to support me, but to make this challenge true to what I say I'm going to do, I have to personally color every single person myself.
Wow.
So I worked out that to do 100 people, I think it's about 14 minutes per person.
Yeah.
But if I want to earn my breaks in between, I have to make sure I do it under 10 minutes a person.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is it like a Guinness World Record or something like that? Have you looked into that?
So surprisingly, it actually is. It could be a world record, that what I'm doing. And a lot of people advise me to, Daniel, why don't you contact Guinness Book of Records and why don't you get them to come so that you can actually put it out there that you hit the Guinness Book of Records. And I told them like, of course I can do that, but I don't want to because it dilutes the message of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Is it about me that I'm trying to create? I was like, oh, look at me, I've hit the Guinness Book of Records. It's not what I want to do. What I want to do is raise money so that I can actually help kids.
But you could think of it in this way. Say if you contacted Guinness World Records, they're going to talk about why you're doing this in the first place, and you're going to talk about the cause behind it, and then that could even amplify the cause.
It could. Again, like I had a thought about it, even Australian Book of Records as well. And then I just felt like, again, it dilutes the message of why I'm trying to do what I'm doing.
Okay.
So my focus, end of the day, is coming back to raising money for this charity so that we can use the money to help people. So I rather focus beyond that than me trying to achieve a record. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. We actually have a comment. Someone's asking, we have Beck Newen. Shout out to Beck. And she's asking why the rainbow colors specifically. So I want to connect that to a question. I want to talk about your style, your personal style in styling. I noticed just from your work, there's a lot of color, a lot of layering, rainbows. So can you talk about
why rainbows? I think rainbows suddenly became a bit of a signature thing that I do in the last 3-4 years because of COVID. And then over time, I sort of developed a style of color. Oh, hi Beck, by the way. I sort of developed this unique style of coloring hair to, you know, create these rainbow prisms. So the type of rainbow that I'm doing on every single client is sort of like a style that I sort of adapted to. And then I guess it's sort of like my signature. You know, it's I guess it's not really to represent anything because when I think of rainbows, I guess you know, we support the LGBTQ community, but yes, but I want to focus more on rainbow. We think of children. You know, so I guess putting 100 rainbow hair on you know, everybody in Perth, I guess it's just to show the support of this charity. And it's to
also it's only rainbow.
Only rainbow, only rainbow hair. So everybody that's coming, they're getting a rainbow strip.
Like you're gonna just walk in Perth, or I don't know, you're gonna probably spot people
someone with rainbow hair. Yes, exactly. That is my point. Yes. So we're not just putting one of the colors, you know, from the rainbow. We're putting all 6 colors from the rainbow.
That's amazing. And but specifically, like your style, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just looking at your work, there's a lot of color. Is that to do with your style, or?
I guess so.
Because I mean, there's color with hairstyling, and there's also like the shapes, the cuts, and.
I think it's something I've sort of evolved into, you know, because like I said, when I first started out hairdressing, it was a lot of upstyling, which is like bridal hair, and then I evolved into like cutting, you know, because the type of cutting that I do is very precision. It's all about precision, it's like sassoon style cutting. And then eventually it evolved into like coloring And then now it's just all about vivid hair colors.
Yeah.
So because the reason why I like vivid hair colors is because it's difficult. You know, I'm a type of person that I get bored very easily, and I love challenges.
Yeah.
I like difficult.
Yeah.
And like, I
You like
find
to push
that
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, I love the challenge, you know. So I realized that doing rainbow colors and doing vivid colors is so much more harder than doing like a full head of foils or like blonde or balayage. I mean, anybody can do that. Anybody can do blondes. Anybody can do balayage.
Yeah.
Anybody can do like root fades and full head of foils, but not everybody can do vivid hair coloring properly.
Okay.
Not everybody can do bright vivid hair colors and making it look expensive.
Okay, so what's the difference between vivid hair colors that's, you know, amateur, and what's vivid hair color that's like pro?
Pro, right? Okay, good. So for a very long time, right, when people look at vivid hair colors like bright orange, green, all these tones, they think of it as crazy colors. I hear this word a lot. It's like, oh, you're going to do that crazy color, you know? And then for a long time, I was like, why do people keep calling it crazy colors? So I felt the need to change that people's mindset. It's like, I want to make all these vivid colors expensive.
Yeah.
So, and I realized one of the ways was doing it, how to blend it beautifully and how to present it correctly.
Yeah.
So I sort of, even till now, I'm sort of experimenting ways of how to make it look expensive.
Okay.
So I guess, you know, the way it's all about how we create seamless blends, how we do it in such a way that it doesn't look cheap.
Yep.
You know, because it's to do it in a way that it doesn't look homemade. So that's why I said doing vivid colors is honestly so much harder. And it's honestly a lot more expensive as well to do in a salon.
Yeah. Okay. Got another question from Beck. Where do you see yourself and TAO hair in the next 10 years?
God, in the next 10 years? Oh, I think I never want to retire. That's definitely it. Next 10 years, definitely want more growth.
Yeah.
One more growth for my staff, for the people that work for me.
Yeah.
In the next 10 years, you know, I would love to maybe step back a little bit. I don't know, maybe.
Because you're just based in Perth, right?
I'm just based in Perth for now.
Yeah.
But if I can, for the next 10 years, I want to keep traveling.
Okay.
I want to keep traveling, maybe, hopefully that Perth has developed its own style and its own technique that I can take what we do here in Perth and teach it elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, right, what I'm doing is everywhere I travel, I'm taking whatever I learned and bringing it back to Perth.
Yeah.
My goal is one day that Perth becomes so good to the point that I can take what we've got here and teach it everywhere else I go. So I guess the next 10 years is like, I don't know, hopefully to keep teaching.
Okay.
And hopefully expand what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about sort of the idea of Perth having its own style. When I think of fashion, for example, I think, although like Australia is kind of, in general, Australia's a little bit behind in the fashion scene, also because our seasons aren't in sync with sort of the rest of the world, are a bit behind. But if you think about fashion, Melbourne definitely has its own fashion style. Does places like Melbourne or Sydney or these other cities have its own hair
yeah,
style?
absolutely. Melbourne has a vibe. Melbourne has a style. You know, Sydney has a style. Perth has a very laid-back style, I guess.
But in terms of like hair specifically,
Hair?
like I don't even know, because I know you could.
Not yet. The way I see it, not
Fashion,
yet.
you can talk about it. I don't know if I'm sure you can talk about it with hair as well.
Yeah. Because the way I see it, I don't know, hair, not yet. Eventually there will be, I believe so. Like anywhere, eventually it will develop its own style. Because at the end of the day, you know, Australia is a very young country. You know, our acceptance with culture is still not that strong yet. Eventually, I think when we become more and more open to culture, we think we're acceptance to a lot of culture, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Eventually we will evolve. It will get to the point where we become a lot more open to accepting all other cultures, style, fashion, you name it, right? That's where we start to evolve and start to create our own style, I guess. Yeah. I'll give you one very good example. I went to Taiwan probably 10 years ago, and then I realized that, you know, they don't really have like a style. They sort of copied everything from, because where Taiwan is in between China, and Japan.
Yeah.
And then a bit further up is Korea.
Yeah.
So they're sort of taking that fashion from China, from Japan, from Korea, right?
It kind of reminds me of Hong Kong, and I was just in Hong Kong
Yeah.
earlier, and Hong Kong is this fusion of all these
These
Asian
different cultures, right?
like India,
Yeah.
Southeast Asia, China.
Exactly. So Taiwan was exactly like that. And then I went back a couple of months ago, and I realized that in the last 10 years, Taiwan has now created its own identity
Oh, okay.
in a short 10
Yeah.
years. Because I went there and I saw like, oh, it's quite, they're pretty cool, but they don't have their own identity. But when I went there now, they're like, holy shit, they evolved. They actually have their own
I would
identity
say,
now.
just looking at the fashion in particular, what I noticed, like very similar to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong fashion for me, just from my perspective of being there for like a few weeks, it's got this alternative style.
Yes.
It's a little bit, it's very, what's it like vintage fashion. Vintage fashion is big, a little slightly punk, like alternative vibe.
Yeah.
And then if you look at Taiwan, like I sort of know a few people from Taiwan. They also have like that similar style in terms of what they're wearing.
Yes, they do, but they have their own thing going on.
Yeah.
I think same with here as well in Australia. Like we have our own thing going on, but it's not evolved yet. It will reach to the point that it will become more refined.
Yeah.
But it's not quite that. Like I said, eventually it will.
Okay, so how would you describe the style in Taiwan now?
In Taiwan, it's I don't know how to describe it. All I can tell you is it's starting to develop its own unique flavor. You know, because Taiwan, a lot of people just don't know enough about Taiwan, because every time when we talk about Taiwan, people just assume that it's China. First of all, Taiwan is not China. It is not China at all. Taiwan is its own unique country, because if you look far back enough, right, Taiwan was actually ruled by the Japanese for 3 generations. So the infrastructure of the entire country and how it looks just like Japan.
Yeah.
The difference is everybody spoke Taiwanese.
Yeah.
So, and Mandarin, you know. So it's its own unique culture. It looks Chinese, but it's Japanese at the same time. But because Taiwanese people are so acceptance to, they like to learn. So they're always open to learning. So in those couple of years, right, they educated themselves so well in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's evolved into something so different and unique.
Yeah, from what I've seen, there's a lot of like unique emerging industries coming out,
Yes.
sort of like technology.
Yeah.
To like,
I mean, bubble tea comes from
bubble tea.
From Taiwan.
That's
you
what
know?
I do know.
Yeah,
And like
then,
bubble tea is blown up here at birth. Like,
yeah, insanely, right? So Taiwan has a lot of influence in the world that a lot of people don't even know. Like majority of the world's umbrellas are actually made in Taiwan.
Oh well, okay.
You know, there's a lot more other things. A lot
I think
of
some
other
of
fun
like
facts as well.
microchips.
Microchips, yeah,
made in
all the
Taiwan.
world's best microchips. Actually, most of them come from Taiwan as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, even though they're manufactured in Taiwan, a lot of it actually
Yeah.
first produced in Taiwan, not China. Yeah, so Taiwan is actually very, very unique. But a lot of people don't hear about it and don't know about it because Taiwan do not promote tourism. It's so beautifully protected, like people just don't know anything about it. But till you go there and you realize like, fuck, this place is so beautiful. It's so, so unique.
So for people listening, where do you recommend they travel in Taiwan?
Go to Taipei. Start off with Taipei. It is a city, but if you have the opportunity, try to travel around Taiwan Island. The island of Taiwan is probably the size of Tasmania.
Yeah.
Okay, but the population of Taiwan is 20 plus million, which is the same as Australia. It's crazy, right? But if you can go to Taipei, Taichung, Kaohsiung, all these places, it's beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. Because Taiwan is, yes, it's an island, but if you look at how Taiwan is structured, right? In the middle of Taiwan, the entire island, it's mountain. It's like a spine,
Yeah.
but it's all mountains. It's
Yeah.
all mountainous. So when I was in Taiwan the last trip, I spent nearly every single day hiking.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. They preserved the nature there so well.
That's what I've noticed about Taiwan and Taiwanese people is there is this like unique relationship with nature, just from what I've
Yes.
seen
Yes.
in Taiwan, architecture and the way they've structured the city and everything. It's this blend of like nature and city, which
Yes.
is like so cool.
Exactly, because I said before, like I mentioned earlier, if you've seen the movie Spirited Away, the
Yeah.
anime, you know, it's inspired not in Japan, but a place in Taiwan
Yeah.
called Jiufen, and it's on top of this. It's this little town on top of a mountain. And Taiwan is really famous for hot springs.
Yeah.
That's what inspired, the hot spring, hotel in Spirited Away.
Oh, okay, that makes
It's
a lot
very
of sense.
interesting, right? And if you look at this town, Jiufen, all the buildings actually just look like that bathhouse in Spirited Away. It's amazing.
Oh, okay,
Go to Taiwan, guys. Go to Taiwan. Be inspired. It's insane.
Yeah, because I've got a Taiwanese friend, and I launched a photo book recently, and it's now in the design store in the Art Gallery of WA. On the last page is my friend, and she's from Taiwan, and she like loves Spirited Away and that sort of thing. And first of all, that's why that makes sense, and then two, the shot is of I wanted it to be inspired by that blend between nature and architecture. That's why I shot it. So that this all kind of makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Like it's hard to express it sometimes, but the best way I can say it is you just got to go there.
Yeah.
Just go see it.
Yeah,
go see it for
next time I
yourself.
think I'm gonna go to that one. And sort of back to hairstyling. What is sort of, because I think just based on what you're saying, the styling that you do here, would you say it is mostly Asian influenced?
Not really. So a lot of people still look at my salon as like an Asian salon. The matter of fact, I probably say our Asian clientele is probably just like 40% or maybe 30%. Majority of our clientele is everybody, So we want to be the salon where we can do everything. I try, even the stylists that we hire here, the people we train, I try to teach them to be a complete hairdresser. So we have a very, I guess, holistic approach on everything that we do here. We don't just talk about your hair, we talk about your lifestyle, we talk about your fashion, we talk about how to push everything else that we do here in hairdressing. So when we talk about cutting, the way we approach cutting is not just, we understand how barbers work, so we can do everything a barber would do, okay? But with from a hairdresser's perspective, right? And then we do, we're complete. I call myself, we're a complete hair salon, because a lot of salons these days, some of them don't even do men's anymore. Even if they do men's haircuts, they're not that good. I make sure my staff, we make sure we do, when it comes to doing men's haircut, we deliver the best.
Yeah.
Okay? And let's say if you're coming in for the perm, we can do perms as well. We can do all sorts of perms. We can do cold perms, we can do thermal perms. If you want to walk out with afro, we can do that. Okay? And then if you come in, you Caucasian hair, you want it to be blonde, we can do blondes. We can do balayage, we can do anything. And then you got Asian hair, you want to come into, you want to get you can go from black to blonde, no problem, we can do that too.
Yeah.
So I want my salon to be known that we can do anything.
So it doesn't have a particular style.
No particular style. We want to be, we want to be able to approach, we can do anything.
One-stop shop for everything you want,
everything.
You can dream up something and then.
Pretty much, because I avoid being like, oh, we're professional only in this. We only specialize in one thing. We specialize in everything. Because when I hear, don't get me wrong, I don't want to offend other hairdressers out there, but I hear a lot of hairdressers like, oh, we only want to specialize in just blondes.
Yeah,
we only want to specialize in just this. I was like, why are you restricting yourself? Why do you only want to be specialized in one thing? When I first became a hairdresser 20 years ago, right, we want to specialize in hairdressing. That means we want to be a complete hairdresser. I want to be fucking good in everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to be just good in just one thing. Is that all I'm well known for?
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't want to be just known for just doing blondes or just doing barbering, because to me that's too boring. I want to be able to be complete. When a client comes in, I want to do a men's cut. Okay, I want to be blonde at the same time. I want to do this a perm at the same time. So I can do all that. It's all in one package.
Okay.
I can style you completely.
I guess what I've seen, you are known for color, basically. Because when I think about photographers, the best photographers, they are known, say Henri Cartier-Bresson. He's a famous photographer. He's known for his street photography style, black and white, or like a painter. Van Gogh. He's known for his style of works. Is that the same for hairdressing as well?
Oh, a lot of people are, yeah. I think at the moment I'm just really well known for doing vivid colors and all this bright color work that I do. But I think people forgot that I know I can do everything.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think it's just at the current wave, I'm just well known for just doing a lot of vivid hair coloring.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you worked for any like celebrities or famous photo shoots or things like that?
Nah, not really. The matter of fact, I actually kind of avoid it. I avoid doing celebrities. I avoid doing like influencers. Fuck, I avoid influencers. like, oh my God, I've got people messaging me all the time, going like, oh, I'm an influencer, you know. Can I just come into your salon? You know, you do my hair for free, and then I'll do a post for you. It's like, fuck no, man. You want to get your hair done, you pay for it. You know, same with celebrities. Anybody who's like a celebrity, my philosophy is like, if you want me to do your hair for you, you just have to book just like everybody else. You pay just like everybody else. You know, I won't charge you more and I won't charge you less. You know, if you're a celebrity, good, book. I'll pay. You just pay just like everybody else. You know, or you influencer, pay just like everybody else. You know, don't come to me and start telling me like I'm this person, do my hair for free. It's like hell no.
Just a person.
I don't entertain that. I don't entertain that. To me, I think it's important to treat everybody the same. If you want my service, I'll treat you just the same. I'll give you the best I can give you, but I do the best for every single person, not just because you're a celebrity or not just because you're an influencer.
Okay.
So I don't believe in that.
Okay. No, I think that's a really good approach to have, because at the end of the day, they're just a human. Like it doesn't. I repeat this many times. You know, if you're an influencer, you are paying full price, just like everybody else. I'm not doing hair for free. We don't need to, because a lot of influencers these days, they think that, or younger influencers, they think that, oh, if I help promote this business, I'm doing that business a favor. You know what? Most businesses are already doing well even before you came along. So we actually don't need that favor. Amazing.
This speaking on behalf of all the other businesses, because we get messages all the time from influencers thinking that they're doing us a favor. I was like, sorry, we're doing well before you even come along. So we'll still be doing well after you're gone. That's just the truth.
So we got a live message from Lakeith. Hey Daniel, I'm Lakeith, a Kyun family member from Sri Lanka.
Yes.
For the last 20 years, I wish you all the best with your great idea of donating project along with your birthday. I wish I could be there with your great charity program to be happening soon. Distance is too much. However, I will share my wishes and prayers to be with you and your team. You're one of a great hairdresser with great skills and a great heart. All the best, sir.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your support. And sort of back to because you're saying teaching is such an important part of what you do. Do you have a school or a program or a course? Or? So at the moment, I'm working for Q&A, Hair Cosmetics. So they sort of they're so good to me, I must say. In the last couple of years, right, they don't scrutinize me on what I do. So for a lot of product companies, you know, they sort of dictate what kind of photos you post, what kind of education you choose you're going to be teaching. You teach everything under like a certain program, you know. But for me, I think Q&A sort of gave me the freedom to sort of teach whatever I want. They sort of come to me like every year, so like, okay, so then what do you want to do this year? I was like, oh, I feel like I want to teach people how to bleach hair. It's like, sure, you teach what you teach. And then we just give you a name to your course and then you do what you do. They sort of allow me to sort of express myself as an educator and sort of gave me the creative freedom to teach what I want to teach. Of course, that didn't happen overnight. I had to spend a lot of years to sort of prove that I have the ability to educate properly. And then And over the years, I sort of refined the way I teach. I always tell a lot of my students that do come to my class, I don't teach you anything.
Yeah.
I actually share my experiences.
Yeah. Okay.
So because when I first started teaching classes, I used to like stand on the stage, it's like, okay, so I'm an educator, this is what I'm gonna teach you to do, and you guys just follow me, okay? That's just like, that's not even teaching, that's just telling people what to do and you're just sort of following, right? That's not really inspiring.
And that's actually, just as a creative person, I think a lot of creators share this, like, I find that sort of learning really difficult, like someone just standing in front, like explaining, this is what you do, like, I need to be doing it, like, I need to be there with...
Exactly, for a very long time, that's how I taught. And over time, I realized that that's actually not very inspiring at all. And then slowly, you know, in some of my classes, I was starting to tell them stories of like my experiences over the years, where I travel, what I've learned, and then I realized, oh, people respond to that a lot better. So, and then I start to step back a little bit, instead of just teaching someone how to cut hair or how to color hair. Every single thing that I teach, it comes with a story. Why I came to foil the way I foil, because I traveled this country, I learned it this way, and it has a reason to it. Not just how I'm doing this, there's also a why to everything I do.
Can you give me an example, like for that foiling technique? Like, can you, like, why do you do it?
Ooh,
like,
this is going to be technical. I'll give you one, but it's going to be a little bit technical. Okay, so I tell them like, okay, the way I foil hair is not just, you know, putting the foil underneath there, because it's going to, how do I say? It's not just to just hold the hair in a certain position. You know, how high I hold the foil on top of the head. So let's say how high the foil goes makes a difference to the result, or how close it actually goes in the scalp. And I tell them like how I learned this technique is because when I used to be living in Melbourne, that's how all hairdressers in Melbourne foil. And I traveled enough around Australia and I realized the hairdressers in Melbourne have a very particular technique on how they foil. They might not understand why they foil the way they foil, but this is how they foil. So as an educator, I start to break down not just the how they foil it, but why they foil it the way they foil.
Yeah, that's...
Does it make sense?
Yeah, and it just reminds me of a quote I posted on our threads the other day. And I think it's probably been said before, but it just got me thinking, like, if you do something long enough, it becomes an art form.
It becomes an art form.
It's almost like this, hairstyling has become an art form, and this is a technique that you've used.
Yeah, I built, but not just that, it's become an art form. I was able to break down the why.
It's the why, yeah. I think once you have the why, then it's sort of an art form. If you don't have that why, you're just doing it.
You're just doing it, right?
Because it's not, there's no thought or concept behind it. It's just it's an action.
Exactly.
But when you have the why,
the why is important.
It just brings meaning to it.
Yes, the why is really, really important, because as soon as I explain the why, they start to understand, okay, this is why you do it, and then this is how it's done.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is one of the things I teach, you know, and even like how I bleach hair as well, why you bleach it the way you bleach it.
Yeah.
This is how you do it, this is why you do it, you know. So there's always a why, not just like, okay, this is how you do it, done, you know, and this is how you follow. So I just sort of try to spend a little bit more time to explain the why.
Yeah. As a photographer, when I'm taking a portrait, I get the best results when I really connect with the person and I know them and I understand their story and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Does understanding someone's story and does that come into your hairstyling as well?
It's important that I know the story sometimes, because when I speak to clients, right, it's important to help them express how they feel. Because sometimes, you know, I have women coming in, you know, they're going through some sort of trauma in their life, or sometimes they're going through a divorce. You know, the only thing sometimes they feel like they could change how they feel is by cutting their hair. So it's really important that I am very careful to listening to their needs, what they want and what they, it's not so much what they want, but I try to hear carefully what they don't want. Because, you know, like it could change how they feel completely.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky enough that I'm in a position where I have clients coming in and you go like, Daniel, just do what you want. That's actually the most scary thing. it's really scary for clients to come and just go like, then you just do what you want, because I may think a mullet looks great on you, but you know, mullet might not suit everybody, right? Or I might think like, yeah, a mohawk might be amazing. So I have to listen really, really carefully to my clients.
It sounds good because, oh wow, creative freedom, but then it's kind of a double-edged sword.
It's not, yeah. But because I've done this long enough, I can sort of read people really, really well. So I know exactly how to create a style that will suit them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is through experience. This is something that can't really be taught. It's just something that you have to learn with experience. Yeah.
There seems to be a correlation between people dyeing their hair and mental illness. Is this true, and why do you think this phenomenon exists?
It's an image thing, you know. It's been well presented in movies and films all the time, you know. Whenever a woman goes through some sort of trauma, what do? They shave their head. You know, when someone wants to go through some sort of emotional sort of trauma, right? They shave their head because they feel like it's removing how do I say? I guess it just removes. It makes them feel clean. You know, it's like a fresh start. You know.
Okay.
So I think it comes across in every culture as well. Like even for Buddhism, monks, you know, they shave all the hair off because it's a form of like I'm starting clean. I'm pure. You know, so when someone comes in and changes their image, you know, they go with their hair first because they feel like it's the first thing that would change how they feel.
Okay.
And I guess, you know, having hair, it's important, right?
Yeah.
Because it's our image, it's how we feel, and then the best way we express ourselves is through our hair.
Yeah.
First.
Okay, so they dye their hair and then they see themselves in a different way.
And it makes them feel better.
Feel a different way.
Absolutely, it changes how they feel. So that's why as a hairdresser, we have such heavy weight responsibility, you know, to what we do. So there's
a lot of connection between like like hairstyling and then human emotion and how people feel, because you got conversation. It's almost like therapy. You're talking to someone about yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're having a different style to your look. And then it's changing how you feel about yourself as well.
It's all that. That's why I always say that what I do, it's a very holistic approach to hairdressing, because if not right, you're just a robot. You know, you're coming in, they tell you like, this is how I want to cut my hair. Okay, cool, cut. Okay, bye, see you later.
Yeah.
That's just hairdressing, right? If you approach it with a much more holistic approach, you're not just doing a haircut. You're actually making them feel better as well.
Yeah.
And then end of the day, it's not just when the clients come in that I really am delivering an experience for them, because I spend the time, I talk with them. You know, it's that conversation with the client that, you know, I take the time to understand them. Because these days, right, like I actually don't do new clients anymore. Like my clientele list, it's quite intense. It's definitely more than 1,000 or 2,000 people that I have to service. And every single one of them, I've known them for either 10 years or even like at least 5 to 6 years. And I don't do new clients anymore because every single day when I come to work, it's like catch up with a friend. Because it's the best feeling ever, because it's the same person I see for the last couple of years, and then it's just catching up with a friend every day. It's a very unique feeling. So I guess, you know, sometimes it's a way for my customers to come. It's like seeing a therapist, I guess. They come in to rent with me. It's like, oh, my husband, he's just a pain in the ass, you know, lately. And then, or like, you know, I just divorced my wife. Or like, oh, look I got this new pair of shoes. Yeah. They just need to like express it to someone, and they usually express it to me. Because maybe I feel like maybe they don't have anybody else to express it to, or maybe they're just glad to see me. You know, so or I'm just a person that they just see regularly, like, oh, someone I gotta tell to, or secret. As hairdressers, we hold so many secrets, you have no idea.
Yeah, you're like one of those people in, like, you know, those Christian people who you tell your secrets.
Oh yeah, secrets too. I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
It's like that, but sometimes even a lot worse than that as well. Yeah.
Like a priest, yeah. Because in your 20 years in the industry, like you've kind of met someone and then you've seen how they've changed over their life in the
Yes.
20 years. So how has that been? What have you learned from that about life?
Oh, I learned so much because, my wife and I, we don't have kids, but I grow with my clients as well, because there are people that I've met, let's say in the last 10 years having my own business, right? I've seen clients where they just finished uni, all the way till, the first time they dated someone or been in a relationship with someone, till they start getting married, till like now I'm doing their children's hair as well. So I've been a part of so many people's lives, not just one family, and like hundreds of families that I've been involved with. I've seen their kids grow up. I've seen, parents pass away or grandparents pass away, or see, people age, or, seeing people become successful. It's such a overwhelming experience, but it teaches you a lot about life. Yeah, it makes you a much more understanding person over time. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very interesting, isn't it? It's very, very
Yeah.
interesting, because every single day I'm talking to people. Every single day I'm learning about people's lives. And every single day, even till now, every single day I learn something new.
That must be. Yeah,
It's a heavy experience. It's heavy.
Because, even if you're, say, like a therapist, and you can't really, you got to hold those secrets or something, but
Yeah.
it can be.
Therapist is even harder. I think the difference between me and the therapist is that I'm actually allowed to give advice. It might not be the best advice, and sometimes I tell them like, hey, my advice might not be very good, but I can. As a therapist, they don't, therapists can't actually give you real advice. They can't actually give you the answer.
Yeah.
They sort of like, do a bit of a round and sort of tell you, just have to tell you how to figure things out by yourself.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're actually just not allowed to.
But I think it's just it's something about being a human, where it's like so healthy to share your experience and what you're going through to somebody. It's like really important.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the benefits of like improving your mental health is conversation, is sharing what you're going through, sharing your perspective as a
absolutely. As people, we're social animals. We want to share. That's why naturally I want to share. I want to teach. We're social animals. We want to share. That's why talking to my clients, they always have something to share. I was like, hey, how was your weekend? They always have something to talk about. Like, oh, I went partying, I went doing this. Oh, I did nothing. Even doing nothing, they'll tell you, oh, I did nothing. What do you mean did nothing? Oh, I just stayed at home all day. I just watched TV and did nothing. That's something. People always have something to share. Always.
Yeah, the profession I was talking about it's called a confessor. So someone will come in and just talk about their sins.
Oh yes,
I'm not sure if it's the
confess.
same with
Yeah.
I don't think, or maybe some people tell you their sins, but
oh shit, so many, and sometimes you'll be surprised. Some of them are very proud of them too.
And can you tell me about your inspirations? Like, do you have people in the industry or that have inspired you? I
think all my ex-bosses have absolutely inspired me. I think because some of my ex-bosses, especially one guy in particular, he's honestly a really good mentor to me when I was in Malaysia. I don't think I was a very good staff member, employee when I was working for him, because I was very young and very loose. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and then I just didn't have very good direction. My ex-boss, his name is Mike Law. And then I think at his peak, right, he had something like 4 hairdressing academies, and then something like 30 hair salons or something like that. It's insane in Malaysia alone.
Wow.
I was like, wow, this guy is like really impressive. But everybody always saw him as like a horrible boss, or a con man, or a how do I say, or someone that's just like really tough, like a really tough boss. But for me, he really took me in. I think maybe, I don't know, he saw something special in me. He really took me and he really mentored me properly, because what he taught me was, he didn't teach me to become a good worker, because when you're running an empire like this, right, you want to train your staff to become good workers so they do good job for you, right?
Yeah.
He trained me to become a leader. He taught me how to become a leader. He taught me how to run a business so that people will follow you. Man, that's something that is
To be a leader.
that is priceless. Nobody's going to teach you. Nobody can teach you to become a leader. It's something that you just have to figure out yourself. I'll give you an example, right? Your whole life, going to school, okay, going to uni, they're training you to become a worker. You become a follower. You've always been trained to become a follower. Nobody has actually, or any sort of high institution or education has ever taught you to become a leader. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think about this a lot. Like, it was tough for me being in the school system as a creative person, because I think as a creative, you don't really want to be you don't want to be put in a box, and you kind of
just want to do your own thing,
you
right?
want to do your own thing and think outside of the box. And in high school, you're put
in that
this
box,
sort of box, and
exactly.
you're like, you can learn this, you can learn this, you can learn this. Oh, you're failing at this subject, you're failing at this subject.
Exactly.
And yeah, it teaches you to sort of fit into society, like you
yes,
need to fit.
So you can fit into society, and you just follow and do what you need to do, and work for someone, and and be a worker. So what's unique about this ex-boss of mine? He really taught me to see beyond that. You don't have to be a worker. You don't have to be a follower. You can be a really, really good leader. I'll give you an example. Like, have you ever heard of this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah.
I fucking love that book, okay? I read that book when I was, my dad gave it to me when I was 14, 15. And then I always remember there was this one little part of the book that I still remember till now. I don't remember most of the book, but this one bit of the book actually changed me.
Yeah.
And my perspective and how I see things as well. And it ignites me again every once in a while, when I talk about my ex-boss, because he taught me the same thing. So there's this bit of the book that says, like, the poor dad, okay? The poor dad would tell the son, son, study hard so that one day you will work for a good company. Do you hear that? Have you heard that before? Yeah. That's what we learn in society, right? Study hard so that one day you work for a good company. You know what the rich dad would tell the son? Son, study hard so that one day you will buy a company. You see the difference? Yeah. Both dads basically have the same, they want to do the same good for their son. They want their son to do well. The son, study hard so that you become someone. But the end goal is different.
And the rich dad's advice, that kind of would seem more risky, or not risky, but yeah, I guess more risky in the way that, if you, maybe you're not going to fit into a certain company, but then it's kind of like a higher goal.
It's a higher goal.
And it's like, why not go for that higher goal? Because even if you fall, you're going to...
It's society, because it's not so much like a risk, because it's just perspective. Both dads want the same for their son. They want their son to do well, but both dads just see things in a different perspective. One sees life very safe, so he can work for a good company. The other one, you are born to be a leader. Yep. I'm going to teach you to become a leader.
Yeah, because in the school system and the uni system, they actually teach you to work for somebody else, not to work for yourself or create something new.
Exactly. So the moment my ex-boss, he took me in, he changed my perspective. He became my rich dad, and I became the rich son, I guess. And then I started to see things like, I want to be a leader. So I guess after I came back to Australia working for him, in the back of my head, I guess I always knew I was going to open my own business, right? I was always going to do it, I just needed something to trigger me, I guess. And I always knew that if I become my own business owner, like, I guess I just always knew that I wasn't going to work for someone for that long. I just always knew that I wanted to do my own thing. I think that's the same as for most creatives as well. End of the day, you're not going to work for someone for that long. You're going to end up doing your own thing. So why not just focus on just doing that? Be your own boss. Do your own thing. create your own thing. Just be your own leader. Don't be a follower.
We have a question here. What are some of your biggest challenges that you faced as a business owner, and how did you overcome it?
Overcome it? Oh, I got a really good one. Okay, as a business owner, I think I've made every mistake possible as a business owner. Okay, the biggest mistake I think is to see people that work for me as employees. Because for a long time I just see them as overheads. The moment I start to change the perspective, right, and start seeing them as people, it's a game changer. Because you start to realize that the people that work for you relies on you, okay? The reason they have a job, the reason they have a home, the reason they have a car is because of you. That's big. That's a realization, you know? Because for a long time, I always see them like, oh, just overheads. I've always seen them as just like, oh yeah, you know, as just workers.
Fire, yeah.
and you know, I have to be honest, it's true, you know? And then after I stopped seeing that, I start to see them like, okay, they're people, they have emotion, they have feeling, and not just that, they also have dreams and goals. And once you see past that, right, and you're like, wow, you have a dream, you have a goal, and I'm starting thinking to myself like, how can I help you with that dream and that goal? That's a breakthrough.
So it's almost like another driver. For
another drive,
yourself.
Yeah. So once I became a better person by when I start to realize that happened. You know, I start to, how do I say, coach my staff a bit better. I start to help them more. I start to be a bit more understanding. Because for a long time, I don't even hear their voice. And it's really bad. But when you run a business, it's not that I'm not hearing my staff's voice. It's because there's a lot of noise on other things that's happening. I got to worry about whether the business is making enough money. I got to worry about client complaints. I'm going to make sure clients are happy. I got to make sure there's enough stock. I got to make sure there's enough income. I got to make sure I'm paying my taxes. You know, there's so many other elements. And I forgot the most important element is staff. You know, I saw this post recently on Instagram. Someone asked, what makes a salon toxic, or what makes a salon business toxic? And then the answer is the owner. You know, if the owner is not responsible, if the owner is not disciplined, the business fails, the business falls. So it all comes down to the owner, not the staff. For the longest time, a lot of business owners, you know, they have this perspective that if I hire good staff, the good staff will run the business for me. It's bullshit. No, it's your business. You have to take care of the business. Yeah. You have to put in the hard work because this is your dream, right? You have to put in the business, and you have to take care of your staff. They are only a support. You know, they are fulfilling your dream. And
you're running this business, and you're booked out and everything. Yeah, you were telling me you travel every month or every month? Every month.
So I actually only work 4 days a week at the moment. And then nearly every month I will sometimes take about maybe 3 to 4 days and travel for work to teach. I could be going to Melbourne, could be Sydney. Next week I'm going to New Zealand for a couple days to also teach. And in October, because I'm going to a different country, I'll be flying to Amsterdam. Wow. And I'll be teaching in Amsterdam for a week. And then after that, I'll be going to London. That's a bit of a holiday because, you know, it's my wife and I, it's her birthday and our anniversary as well. But every month I take time to travel and teach because that is my only getaway from, you know, being in a salon all the time to a different environment to sort of do what I love, which is teaching as well.
Okay. And like, how are you able to go and just teach in Amsterdam? Are there people who know you and follow you, and you know the salon, like salons there?
So because I work for Unique Hair Cosmetics, like the product company, they actually help organize the courses for me. So everywhere I travel is organized by them.
And it's branded under that name?
Yeah, it's all under theirs, yeah. Oh, okay. So I don't mind working like that. So I used to organize a lot of classes all by myself. And then when they came along, they were like, hey, how about, you know, we manage you, basically. Yep. You know, we could do the courses for you, we organize the courses for you, and you just teach for us. I was like, fuck yeah.
So you can do that all over the world, like Japan?
Well, everywhere but Japan. I haven't gone to Japan yet. I've been to Switzerland. I taught in Switzerland before. I taught in Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, as well as Jakarta. I went to Jakarta. I did even that class in Bali as well. There's a bit of everywhere, and Amsterdam as well. If you didn't notice, for this brand, Q&A Hair Cosmetics, they recently just hit 100 years as well. That's how long this brand has been around. And I'm actually their brand ambassador.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay, gotcha.
For Australia, I'm their ambassador. I forgot what my title is, creative ambassador. And then for global, I'm their ambassador for their vivid color range as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm very lucky to be in the position that I am, because for a color company, they really do give me the creative freedom that I have to do what I do and what I love.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think as creators, if you get to a certain point, it doesn't matter if like musicians, it's popular to have like, you know, a manager at some point to manage you. But yeah, you can't like do everything yourself.
By yourself, that's correct. So I guess in a way, low key, they are sort of like my managers, you know, to sort of organize classes so that I can perform. Yeah. You know, so that's kind of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've traveled the world and you've seen lots of hairstyles in different places. What's some of the most unique, interesting hairstyles that can be from like a culture or contemporary culture, subculture? What's some of the most like unique styles that you've seen that have inspired you, you've kind of taken from that?
Oh man, probably everywhere I go it changes, because every year, because of my travels, right? Everywhere I go, I learn something new. I think the biggest change if you want to talk current, I'll probably say China. China has dramatically changed the face of hairdressing in the last 2 years. If you ask me even 5 years ago, like what's China like? It's like, hell no, man, don't even go to China. Like there's no way China would be interesting, right? But now I would probably say like China is leading. The stuff that China is doing right now, it's so ahead of its time, it's mind-blowing. And it's something that I would never thought I would ever say. But China, it's what they're doing right now, it's very exciting. The way they color hair is different. The way they approach of how everything is done is so refined. It's really, really impressive. It's really, really impressive, yeah.
Tell me more, like.
Okay, I'll give you an example, like balayage, okay? You know what balayage is?
I don't.
So balayage is sort of like that ombre style of coloring where it's sort of just on the ends. And then they have that similar technique as well. But the way they approach it is so much more beautiful, refined, and it's a lot easier to do and approach. Okay. So they figured out how we all do in the Western world do balayage, coloring. And the way they do it, similar, but easier to do, faster, and a lot more beautiful. And it's just mind-blowing to see.
And have you gone and learned this technique?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have. And then I saw this technique and I saw the way they do it was so amazing. For my last trip in Taiwan, and I could see this wave of style of balayage and hairdressing, right? I had to quickly bring it back and I had to quickly teach my staff. I was like, yo, you guys have to learn this, because the way these guys do it, nobody else is doing it here in Perth, or nobody else that I've seen is doing it. So by the time I've taught my staff how to do it, I've got people calling up saying that this is the style that they want. I was like, thank God I saw it before everybody else.
And why do you think China is so ahead of the game in
population
at the moment?
Population, because for a very long time, right, if you didn't know this about China, they've only been exposed to the world only 30 years. Means that the country hasn't opened its doors for that long, because people has never really traveled out of China until 30 years ago. So the moment they open their doors, allowing the Chinese to go out of the country, they start going out to learn from all these other countries, that start educating themselves. They start sending their kids to like overseas to all these countries to start educating themselves. And probably in the last 10 to 5 years, all these kids that are living all around the world in like, I don't know, the UK, London, could be Switzerland or everywhere, are all coming back to China. They're bringing everything that they learned, they're going back to China and go like, okay, so this is what we've learned, how can we improve and how can we refine what we've done? This is every industry, fashion, this is hairdressing, this is photography, this is everything, interior design. That's why China is a very exciting place to go check out right now. It is so, how they evolved is so fast. And on top of that, they got money.
Yeah.
You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes from that culture of wanting to learn and improve and create.
Yes.
And there's like a video I watched recently about soft power. Are you aware of what soft power is?
No.
So soft power is basically, so a country has like different types of power. There's military power, economic power. Soft power is actually to do with creativity, from what I know. So
okay.
South Korea at the moment probably has the most amount of soft power coming out of Asia, I think, from the K-pop scene.
Absolutely. K-pop has really, how do I say, helped the economic growth in Korea as well. They definitely play a big part in the economy. Yeah.
And yeah, even I'd say it's kind of influence. So like in America, they have a lot of soft power to do with, I'd say America is probably leading the soft power in terms of like movies, influencers, music, that sort of thing. But now you see Asia, especially South Korea, or the art world, Hong Kong, with like Art Basel. Just it's kind of influenced from creativity. So I think China's definitely lacking in the soft power movement, but they're just
for now.
But they know how to like learn and improve and like.
Oh, absolutely.
So
and I think it's also because they were hungry. They were hungry for improvement. I think why certain countries like us in Australia, right, our growth and our improvement is so slow, is because we're comfortable. It's true. We're so comfortable here.
I totally agree.
Yeah, we're really comfortable here. We don't see the need to push ourselves. It's because like, we're doing okay, we just take it easy. In China, because competition is so hard, because I'll give you an example what I mean by competition. You see, down here in King Street, there's probably only 3 salons here, okay? That's not competition, okay? In China, one street, there's probably 30 to 40 salons, and they're all competing against each other. If you think I'm better than you, oh, you're cheap, I'm gonna be cheaper than you. That's how people work, So there's this drive because people are competitive and people are hungry for more and more and more.
Yeah, and I think that's what we sort of lack here in Perth, and it ties into the creative industry, especially, or like the culture. The culture is very like laid back. You can't be seen to be sort of trying to be better than somebody else, even if you put yourself out. And it's kind of you have the tall poppy thing here. You don't have that in China, like, or you don't have that in the US.
No, not really. Yeah.
It's that laid back sort of feeling, and I think it's because we do have it so good here. Like
we do have it good.
If you've
That's one of the
traveled,
reasons
you
why
know
people
how
come
good
here.
it is here. Like healthcare system, government.
Yes,
like,
exactly. Healthcare and all that. Coming from Malaysia. Again, a bit of a controversial thing to say. Coming from Malaysia, right? Being Chinese, if you're not Muslim, you are literally considered a second-class citizen. So growing up, right, I didn't understand what welfare was. I didn't know there's like such thing as welfare. When it came to Australia, I was like, oh, you didn't work, so don't you need to get a job? Oh, the government is going to give me money. I was like, the fuck? Like, but you're not working. Why do you deserve the money? Oh, because I'm Australian. That's kind of how it is. But from Malaysia, if I don't work, the government is not going to give me a handout. It just does not exist. So when I came to Australia, right, I was like, if I don't work, obviously I'm not going to have money. Why would I have a handout? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So after living here for a while, I was like, wow, you guys, I think it's really good that the government is helping you out.
Yeah.
But I don't think people should always have the mentality of like, oh, I don't have money now, I'll be fine, because there's always going to be government's going to help me out. Because I come from a country where this does not exist. So that's why, I felt the need to to do well. I felt the need to succeed because, you know, since I was young, it was embedded to me, I cannot fail.
Yeah, I think that's why you have, I don't know, the international people, they have sort of that drive because from where they come from? It's like you need to work or because you need to eat and you need to live and you don't have that, you don't have a handout, whereas here you can, you know, we have Centrelink, so if you don't work or...
There's always a help. So
there's that help.
And then, you know, this is going to be a tricky one to talk about because, you know, people, this generation, we talk a lot about how the younger generation is so privileged now. They're so privileged, they're so entitled and all that, you know, I get it. It's not entirely a bad thing, but it's also our own doing as well. Because, you know, we come to this country because, you know, coming from Malaysia, we don't have that kind of privilege. Yep. We truly understand what it means to be privileged, you know, because growing up in Malaysia, we just don't have that privilege. Here we talk about like, oh, you're privileged, you know, you have this, you don't have this. People will just give you a handout. But here we understand it. We're so glad you have it. Does it make sense? Yep. We're not jealous that, we're not laughing, oh, you're so privileged. We're not jealous. We're so glad you have it. Because of that, you're able to live well. Yeah. You're able to live this. We're so glad you don't get to experience what we experience. That's why when people come to this country, we appreciate it so much.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and it's almost backwards, like that culture here where you kind of put somebody down if they're successful or they something here. Like I remember growing up and in high school or after high school, like surrounded by, there's kind of a culture about like sitting around sort of drinking or smoking and chilling out, and like you don't talk about your hopes and dreams, you just, it's kind of like sort of empty, sort of for me, empty conversation. There's not that sort of like hustle culture, and I think I think it's human nature to, you know, if you don't have that pressure, it's like pressure creates diamonds. So
exactly.
The pressure.
I grew up with all that pressure. You know, my life has always been a hustle. Has always been a hustle because, like I said, you don't have much. We're coming, you have to hustle. You know, it's like after I came back from Malaysia, how I quickly opened up a salon with zero fear because I was hungry. I was hungry for success. I was hungry to have something because I had nothing. Because I realized coming to Australia, you know, to work an hour at the time was like, you get $15 an hour. I was like, shit, that is so much money. If I worked the same hours in Malaysia, I was making RM3 an hour. That is $1 an hour Australian. And when I came to Australia, $15 an hour, fuck, if I work 7 days a week, I'll be doing all right. All I have to do is just work just as hard as I did in Malaysia, but I'll be rewarded a lot more in Australia. That's why Asians work so hard here. It's not because we have to, because we really want to. We really, really want to, because we realize that if we work hard enough, we will have a better life. We have an opportunity here. People in Malaysia or in Asia in general, like they don't have a choice. People have an option of career. You choose to be a photographer because you choose to be, right? In Malaysia, you know, people do certain jobs because they have to, not because they chose to. In Australia, people have choices. It's such a privilege.
Yeah, it is, like, especially as someone who's like traveled and seen other countries. Like Perth is definitely one of the best places in the world to live. It's like a livable city and have a family and whatever. Yeah. It's like safe.
Exactly. That's why I tell people like that sometimes I see some kids are like, fuck, you guys don't get it. That's why instead of trying to teach them, like teach them like, oh, you know, you don't understand how privileged you are, I usually tell them, you know what you should do? You should travel. You know, I always tell them to travel because they don't understand how lucky they are. Until the moment they start to travel, you have to let them experience it on their own. You can't teach someone, like tell someone like, oh, this is how privileged you are, this is how lucky you are. It doesn't work like that. You have to let them experience it themselves.
Yeah, I think when you grow up in a privileged place and you haven't traveled, it's actually hard to create like that because you need like meaning in your life. You actually need to go through things.
You have to go through shit. Yeah.
And yeah, that you need that sort of pressure to create the meaning. So I can see why there is that culture here in Australia, but I think if you, because for me, I see a sort of lack in the creative world and the creative culture here in the creative community. So I'm trying to do something for my city, for Perth. And
hopefully to create that drive, right?
Yeah. So I think for other people I've talked to as well, they want to, as I was saying, they want to bring stuff to this city. So I guess if you're listening to this podcast and you have that drive or direction,
hopefully it gives people a better idea and direction, of what else is happening in the world. I try to tell a lot of people these days, if you can, get off your phone, man. Get off the phone, get off Instagram, go out there and experience life. Because these days, if you look at your phone, yes, you think you might be getting a lot of knowledge, you think you might be understanding what's happening in the world. That's only a quarter of the picture of what you really, really see. To go out and truly experiencing it, it's life-changing. It's really, really life-changing. I keep saying this the same again and again. It's important to travel because it's important to be cultured. If you've only traveled to Bali, for a holiday, and you're stuck here in Perth the whole time, you're not cultured. You think you are, but you're really not. You have to go out there and experience it.
Go out and explore the world, guys.
Go explore it, yeah.
I think that's all we got time for. We'll leave you on that note.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
On.
Thank you for having me. This is like, this is awesome. I felt like I vomited everything I wanted to say. All these years of this build up of stuff that I always thought about. But this is good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for making this happen. Do you want me to say a couple words?
Maybe say a couple words and say where people can find you and.
Well, for the rest of the world that doesn't know where I'm at, I'm in Perth, WA, and my salon is TAO of Hair. If anything, I want to tell everybody is tune in on the 27th of October, 6 p.m. I'll be doing 100 rainbow hair in 24 hours. I'll be doing it on Facebook Live, Instagram, TikTok Live as well. So everybody can sort of see me, color hair, non-stop for 24 hours, and I guess lose my mind doing hair for 24 hours. But I hope everybody support the cause, what I'm trying to do. And if you guys could please go to my page, please donate generously. The money isn't for me, it's for the children with terminal illness. So every dollar makes a difference. So thank you very much, everybody, for the support. And thank you very much.
Amazing. Yes, thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.
Cool. Thanks.
Peace.